7th, 2024. I am Christine King, your chairwoman and Commissioner for District 5. I'm joined here with my colleagues, Mayor Francis Suarez, Commissioner Manolo Reyes, and Commissioner Damian Pardo. We are going to start with our proclamations and recognitions. I'm going to turn the mic over to our mayor. I understand we have some very, very special recognitions today.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to you, too. Welcome, everyone. Today is a day that we want to highlight an illness that maybe doesn't get as much attention or as much press as it deserves. And so I didn't know much about it, to be frank. I learned about it in preparation for today. Scleroderma is an immune system disease which becomes hyperactive that leads to the tissues attacking via collagen overproduction. And it manifests across all age groups, including infants, all the way to the elderly. And its onset is most prevalent for those between the ages of 25 and 55. It's highly individualized in nature, and the symptoms can range from mild all the way to life-threatening. It can result in skin thickening, organ damage, including the lungs, heart, esophagus, and gastrointestinal tract. The timely diagnosis and appropriate treatment by qualified medical professions can mitigate scleroderma symptoms and reduce the risk of irreversible harm despite the absence of a cure. We want to highlight the existence of 7 national Scleroderma Foundation support groups within the state of Florida and acknowledge the Foundation's commitment to advancing medical research, fostering disease awareness, and offering support and education to individuals who are diagnosed, to their families and their support networks. Why don't you please come on up and receive this proclamation for Scleroderma Awareness Day today. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. I just want to express my sincerest gratitude for the proclamation received in honor of the Scleroderma Awareness Day. This distinction is just a recognition of all the hard work and dedication that everybody involved in this cause. Thanks to your support, we can continue working and raising awareness about scleroderma and improving the life of those people living with this condition. This proclamation just motivates us to move forward with greater strength and determination. Thank you so much, and I hope we can continue counting with your support.
Hi, good morning, all. So this proclamation is for a very special gentleman that I've known for a very short period of time. But the city of Miami, whereas Ignatius E. Carroll Jr., affectionately known as Iggy, was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, to Camille
And the family. Come on up. Come on up. Everyone, come on up. I've had the pleasure of being friends with Iggy for the past I'm not going to say. For the past 30 years, Iggy and I have been friends. We have walked this journey long before I became an elected. He's a fantastic guy. His daughter and my daughter share the same name, Kennedy, although my Kennedy is a little older than his Kennedy by maybe a year or so, I guess. Yep. So I know what a fantastic person he is, and it is our honor. Our newest commissioner, Commissioner Gabella, took the lead in doing this proclamation, but Iggy has earned it, deserved it. He has been a fine, fine gentleman, community servant, good best friend, and fun fact, he was really crazy about sports cars, like crazy. He had this red, remember that red sports car? He let me drive it. So you know we were friends because he cherished that car. So congratulations. Thank you for all of your service. I'm going to turn it back over to Commissioner Gabella so he can finish with the proclamation, and then we hope you would say a few words.
So it's an honor for us to give you this award, Iggy. Whereas Ignatius C. Carroll Jr., affectionately known as Iggy, was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, to Camille and the late Ignatius Carroll Sr. in September 1968, and is the oldest of four brothers, as well as a proud husband to Crystal Carroll and father to daughter Kennedy and son Emerson. And whereas Iggy moved to Miami, where he attended Miami Shores Elementary, Thomas Jefferson Middle School, and graduated from North Miami Senior High in 1986. And whereas in 1989, at the age of 19, Iggy was hired by the City of Miami Fire Department, marking the beginning of an exemplary career in public service. And whereas throughout his distinguished career, Iggy has served in various capacities, including firefighter, paramedic, fire department recruiter, fire inspector, fire investigator, EMS instructor, special event officer, and public information officer, PIO, for the department. And whereas in 2007, Iggy was recognized by the state of Florida as the first African-American recipient of the Public Information Officer PIO of the Year Award, a testament to his exceptional communication skills and dedication to public safety. And whereas that Iggy demonstrated his aspirations for career advancement by being promoted to lieutenant in 2007, captain in 2014, and ultimately to ex-executive officer to the fire chief in 2018, and whereas the executive officer, Iggy, currently oversees the Office of Public Relations, serving as department liaison to numerous local, state, and federal agencies, and holds critical roles such as external affairs officer for the Department of Homeland Security, Florida Urban Search and Rescue Task Force 2, senior spokesperson for the state of Florida's Emergency Response Team, Region 7, from the Florida's Governor's Office, and executive board member with the National Information Officers Association, NIOA. And whereas Iggy's leadership and expertise have been instrumental during several major disasters at both the national and international level, including his role as lead spokesman during Hurricane Katrina, various hurricanes impacting Florida, the COVID-19 response efforts, and the search and rescue operations at the Champion Towers collapse in Surfside. And whereas with over 35 years of dedicated service to fire department and the community, Iggy has exhibited unparalleled dedication, professionalism, and his steadfast commitment to public safety, with aspirations of one day becoming fire chief. And now, therefore, I, Commissioner Miguel Ángel Gabella, do hereby recognize and commend for you and your exceptional service, leadership, and unwavering commitment to the City of Miami and citizens. We honor and applaud Ignatius C. Carroll Jr.
So if you've been around the fire department, unless you've been living under a rock, you've never seen Iggy's face before. He's the face of the fire department. He's been the PIO through multiple ranks, from firefighter all the way up to executive officer. He's always been the PIO for the last 2 decades, because he represents what the fire department is. The fire department is about competency and service and reliability and transparency and honesty. And that's everything Iggy represents. And I said all these things in Iggy's retirement celebration. But I want to personalize it a little bit to tell you a little bit more about the Carroll family. Iggy was hired when he was 19 years old. And Iggy's father, Ignatius Sr., died when he was 17. A civic leader in his own right, he was the first African-American councilman in the village of El Portal, which left Camille to raise 4 boys, Vincent, Michael, Stephen, and Ignatius Jr. And it's an honor to me. I look now, years later, they're all fathers in their own right, of a woman who raised 4 boys, who has dedicated her whole life to taking care of people. She was a registered nurse as an undergraduate, started when she was a teenager, was in the first nurse practitioner program in the state of Florida and the University of Miami, has spent her entire life caring for people, and raised 4 boys that if you see them, she is a true matriarch. As a father, I'm a father of a 19-year-old boy. You look at her and say, this is what we all want to accomplish in our life, is to have men or children that can contribute to the community. So yes, we're celebrating Iggy, but today's accomplishment really is the entire Carroll family. It's really Camille's accomplishment, Ignatius Sr.'s accomplishment, the Marshall family. I congratulate you on your family. We have benefited, the city of Miami has benefited because of the way you have parented, the men you have developed in your life. We owe you a tremendous amount of gratitude, and we celebrate Iggy today.
Okay, now Rob made me tear up, okay, and I was all ready, so you caught me off guard. So, I think I just want to say thank you all. 35 years seems like a long time, but it seems like it just started yesterday. Having my good friend here remind me about our good times, even though she's not going to say when that year was, but I appreciate all that. She did not wreck my car, so which was great. Thank you, sir. You know, it's been a great run. It's been a privilege to work alongside a lot of people, my brothers in blue, all the city employees, and it's been a privilege to be able to serve the community and work along a lot of wonderful people. So I thank you guys very much. Thank you.
It's really hard to add anything at this point, other than to say you're a saint for having 4 boys. I have a theory that if you have twins or 3 boys plus, you automatically go to heaven. So it's good to meet somebody who's going to heaven for sure. I think your public sector work, Iggy, obviously we're incredibly proud of it, and we benefited tremendously from your ability to be calm in the fire, no pun intended. But I think for me, when I saw you come up and I saw your beautiful family, which I've never met before, it to me, that's really the true success, right? Your success, your legacy is right here, and it's beautiful. And I just looked at your family and I'm like, wow, this guy's got it all. This is unbelievable. So congratulations. Thank you for giving so much of your time and your life to our city. Bob, not Rob. Beautiful. You guys gotta make your dad proud, okay? Make your dad proud.
You're one of 3 that came.
Correct.
Good morning. Wow. Good morning. I'm District 2 Commissioner Damian Pardo. And on my part, on behalf of our commission and our mayor, we're here today to honor the life of George Mersuli. George Mersuli was a brother to me and to many other people. He's someone who led the fight in 1998 with the Save Date campaign to include sexual orientation in our anti-discrimination ordinance. That was really revolutionary at the time, and it took a very special person. It took someone who knew how to listen, someone who could build bridges, and someone who had the patience to move all of us forward together instead of little pieces of our community. So he was a great bridge builder, and we'd like to show you a video where we have comments from the former Miami-Dade County Mayor Alex Pinellas, comments from former City of Miami Mayor Manny Diaz, and some tidbit comments from George himself.
Madam Chairwoman, Commissioner Pardo, and the other members of the Commission, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And thank you so much for this opportunity to say just a few words about my good friend George Mersuli, who you're recognizing and honoring this morning. And of course, much has been said about George's work with organizations like Save Date, which he led from 1998 to 2003, People for the American Way, Democracia USA, Mi Familia Vota, and so many other organizations that really were at the forefront of addressing issues faced by our immigrant and other marginalized communities. Some people don't know, however, that as a proud Cuban American, he was also a conservative Republican. He was a Roman Catholic. He was a staunch anti-communist who frequently spoke out in favor of the Cuban people and against the Castro regime, a profile that's not typical among many of the activists in the community. But I want to talk a little bit about the George Mersuli that I knew and got to know in the late 1990s when we worked together to pass Miami-Dade County's first human rights ordinance. I was the mayor of Miami-Dade County at the time, and I will tell you it was a different moment in our history. It was a moment of time when we didn't have the understanding and the tolerance for certain issues as we have today. In fact, taking on issues of equal rights for gay and lesbian people was done at an extreme political risk. Yet that was the ability that George had of bringing a diverse coalition of people, gay and straight, Republican, Democrat, white and black, North and South, to understand why it was important and why it was beneficial for all of us in Miami-Dade County to pass this human rights ordinance. And it was that courage, that commitment, and that tenacity and his intellect, his ability to bring people together, to build bridges, to form coalitions that ultimately led to the passage of the Human Rights Ordinance, which still today bans discrimination in Miami-Dade County based on sexual orientation. It was that skill level, that ability that George had, that not only secured the passage of the Human Rights Ordinance, but also helped us defeat efforts to repeal the ordinance at the ballot box. And I think that's the legacy that we need to take away from George's life. He accomplished great things while he was alive, but let us remember now that he's gone that you can accomplish great things by bringing people together, by building consensus, by building bridges. That's what he taught us, that working together as a community, we can accomplish more than by driving stakes between us. And that's his legacy, and one that I think in these troubled, extreme, partisan times that we live in, that is the most important lesson that we take away from George Mersuli's life. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I am truly honored today to join so many exceptional people to celebrate the remarkable life of a truly extraordinary human being. Now, it should come as no surprise to most of you that Jorge called me from his hospital bed to discuss the details of this gathering. He requested that I speak and ordered me to keep my comments light and include a big dose of humor. You see, for Jorge, growing old was mandatory, but growing up was only optional. Thank God Jorge never grew up. Now, naturally, my immediate reaction was to cut him off, suggesting that this was a foolish conversation, that he was going to be fine, and actually outlive me. Of course, he brushed me off, demanding that I agree to speak, and as usual, I could not say no to Jorge. When the time came, I realized I was not strong enough to keep my promise. I simply could not stand in front of you today and make light of this moment. Now, he is probably pissed at me right about now, but I am confident he will understand. You see, 2 years ago, I lost another brother named Jorge. Today hits way too close to home for me. I met Jorge during my first campaign in 2001. Receiving the endorsement of Safe Dade meant a great deal to me. We then worked very closely during my years as mayor. The Human Rights Ordinance and Florida Red and Blue's Say No To campaign are just two examples. He was so proud of the Spanish TV ads he helped produce for me. We also worked on numerous campaigns and voter registration efforts. Jorge believed that those who live with us are our brothers, that they share with us the same short moment of life, that they seek, as we do, nothing but the chance to live their lives in purpose and happiness. Jorge understood that the future does not belong to those who are content with today, apathetic toward common problems and their fellow man alike, timid and fearful in the face of new ideas and bold projects. Instead, it belongs to those who blend vision and courage in a personal commitment to the ideals of a just society. Today, we mourn his death, but we thank God for his life. You see, there is no death. People only die when we forget them. And because we will remember Jorge, he will always be with us. Death leaves a heartache no one can heal, but love leaves a memory that no one can steal. I close with a quote from Ernest Hemingway from A Farewell to Arms, a quote that is often used in the context of the loss of a young American president some 60 years ago. If people bring so much courage to this world, the world has to kill them to break them. So, of course, it kills them. The world breaks everyone, and afterward, many are strong at the broken places. But those that will not break, it kills. It kills the very good and the very gentle and the very brave impartially. Jorge, may you rest in peace, and may God continue to bless your soul.
What advice would you give any minority that find themselves today in similar positions that you were in trying to pass legislation that was meaningful?
I think the biggest mistake that folks make these days, in my personal opinion, and you can disagree with me, is the sense of entitlement. The fact that somehow, how dare you do A, B, or C, or D to whoever you are, whether you're black or Hispanic or a woman or gay or whatever. And, I get it. I get it that people should be more enlightened, more woke, more whatever. But the truth is that there's a difference between having an opinion about where things should be and making a decision that you want to create change. Do you want to make a statement or do you want to create change? Those are not necessarily the same goals. Because when you want to create change, you have to understand where people are, why they're there, and have a plan for meeting them where they're at, and then have a pathway for them to follow you back to where you want them to go. That requires a lot more energy and a lot more, it requires listening skills, real listening skills, and that's oftentimes hard. So, I know that I've that I've been told quite often that, why should we be trying to teach blah about blah? And I'm like, well, okay, you can make that choice. That's certainly your right. You can have expectations that if people don't agree with you on this particular issue, then they're idiots, and you may not want to have to ever deal with them again. That's your choice. But that's not the world I want to live in. If I wanted to live, in a world where everybody was saying the same thing and doing marching in step with whatever, my parents would have stayed in Cuba. I don't get that. I don't get how that. I don't get the lack of curiosity or that lack of desire to scratch your head and say, I don't really get that. Like, what is that about?
Madam Chairwoman, Commissioner Pardo, and the other members of the Commission, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for this opportunity to say just a few words.
Obviously, George Muli leaves an enormous void in our community because these are skills that we need now more than ever in a very polarized environment. And so we hope that people learn from him, from his life, from his actions, because we need so much more of it today. And I know, Mayor, you wanted to say some comments, and then we invite his family and friends to come on up for a very special recognition, which is a proclamation and the key to the city of Miami.
Thank you, Commissioner. I wish every commission meeting started this way, right? It's in terms of the knowledge, the poetry, the reflection. When I think of George, I think of that Hemingway quote that Mayor Diaz articulated. I think of my cousin Patrick, like he thinks of his brother George. My cousin Patrick went to Belen Jesuit, went to Georgetown undergrad, Harvard, master's in public policy, and an MBA from MIT, and was a lot like George. He was someone who brought out the best in you. I think George brought out the best in all of us. George, aside from the policy wins, which I think are incredible, for me, it was not about the policy wins with George. When you encountered George, when you sat with George, when you looked at George in the face, you weren't looking at a policy. You were looking at a person, right? And that was part of his disarming nature. Almost from the minute you started talking to him, you disconnected yourself from the policy discussion. You connected yourself with the person. And that's where he began to disarm you. And I think part of that, we live in this world of tension, toxicity, and, all these things. And it's part because it's a supposed idea against an idea. And the first thing that George did was he broke that barrier down. Okay, we're here as human beings. How are you? How's your day? And then you could see it in his video. He was, fundamentally about action. It wasn't about winning an argument. It wasn't about making a statement. It was about creating an outcome. But he took you there. It was a journey. You felt pressure, but not peer pressure. Not pressure in the sense of, oh my God, this guy's putting so much pressure on me. It was more of like a moral pressure, right? Where when you finished having a conversation with him, you felt obligated. It was an obligation. That's where the pressure came from. I have to do something. I have to make a difference. This makes a lot of sense. By the way, we didn't always end all arguments in agreement. And he was also fine with that, which is also a delta from what we see today. He didn't have to agree with him. He didn't have to agree with you. You didn't have to end the argument saying, George, you're right, I'm wrong. He could end the argument and say, you gave me something to think about. And I could end the argument saying, George, you gave me a lot to think about. Let me think about it, and let's touch base again, and let's see if we can move the ball forward. It's really an honor when first of all, when Commissioner Pardo told me, because I didn't even know he had passed. when he told me that he had passed, and he said he wanted to do this, I thought, wow, what a beautiful way to recognize George's impact on our city and our world, really. And then when I saw the tributes, the videos, I was just blown away. I mean, I've never seen any tributes like that, and he deserves it. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. I want to say thank you to you, George. I know you're up there probably cursing at all of us for making such a big fuss about you, but you made an impact on all of our lives. We remember you fondly. We love you. We appreciate you. You changed us fundamentally, and you made us better versions of ourselves. And I think that is the ultimate impact that you can have, is to push people to be a better version of themselves.
Thank you so much, Mayor Suarez and Commissioner Pardo. This is an honor. You guys are recognizing him. I'm Evie Marie. I am his goddaughter, and I was lucky enough to be raised by him. And at a very young age, what I saw in that video, that's my uncle, Panino. Go where people are. Get to where they're thinking. Don't already go in guns blazing, your fist up, and try to change them. Try to figure out where they're coming from first, and you'll get farther that way. And I've tried to lead my life that way since a little girl, and it's gotten me to where I need to be, and I'm very proud of everything he ever did. I remember in 1997, I was a freshman in college, and I was interning for State Date, and I was so proud. I thought he was the coolest person in the world. Look at him. It was that moral obligation. He wouldn't tell you. It was like a Jedi mind trick that he would do to you. But he got you where you needed to be. So I'm very grateful. I'm here with my husband and my daughter and our friends, Richard and Dennis, and of course Damien, and I'm extremely grateful for you guys for this. This is very beautiful, and he would be proud. Thank you.
Only George could do that. I think it's fair to say that we all feel his presence today. We all feel his presence right now.
At this time, we are going to begin our meeting in prayer. And I'm going to ask my 2 summer interns to come up. They are part of the wonderful summer jobs program that the City of Miami have, that the mayor and I have funded. Where did he go? The summer jobs program employs over 200 youth in the City of Miami, and I make it my business to make sure that my summer interns have a overall experience of what it's like to be a public servant. They went to their first event yesterday with our seniors, and they were dancing and having fun and just being little mini public servants. And I'm so proud to be a part of this summer youth program. Tell them your name.
Hi, I'm Charlicia Beto. Hi, I'm Jacaria Brownlee.
So if you see our summer youth around, because they're in every department, they're all over the city, take time out to say hello to them, mentor them, because they are truly our future, and we have to get it right with them by showing them that we are good stewards of our community. And at this time, Reverend Kutcher from Greater Bethel AME Overtown Historic Church is going to lead us in prayer. Good morning.
Can we open our hearts up to an almighty God who's been loving and kind to all of us as we lift him up? Father God, we come now to just thank you for being God Almighty. And we can't talk to you without saying thank you first for blessing us in ways that we don't even understand. And we come now to activate your divine presence in the midst of this meeting, the meeting that will affect the lives of people all over the city and beyond. And so we ask, oh God, that you would be in the midst of this meeting. And God, lend to us your knowledge, your wisdom, your understanding, and definitely your unity. That we would work in a oneness, oh God, and that you would guide our thoughts to make the kind of decisions that will bring blessings into the lives of your folk all throughout the community. And we ask, oh God, that you would allow an anointing to be with us, that in that anointing yokes would be broken into people's lives, and some of the things that we've been struggling with, God, that would have the power to overcome them. And then, oh God, allow us to do it in a way that brings honor and glory to your name. In a way, God, that brings us closer together and more unified community, stronger community that can overcome some of the things that come against us. So we release now an anointing of your blessing in the midst of this meeting to just go out into the community, to bless families, to bless homes, to bless individuals, to bless businesses, to bless folk into a oneness that brings us together. And we thank you for all the blessedness that you would release. Thank you for the healing that you would release in the midst of us. And we declare it so in Jesus' name. Let all of us say amen.
Thank you. Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance is the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Never enough opportunities for public speaking for our young people. Thank you, guys. And at this time, we will have our city attorney, Mr. George Wysong, read a statement into the record for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. George Wysong, City Attorney. Detailed information about the processes, order of business, rules of procedure, and scheduling or rescheduling of City Commission meetings can be found in Chapter 2, Article 2 of the City Code, a copy of which is available online at www.municode.com. Any person who is a lobbyist pursuant to Chapter 2, Article 6 of the City Code must register with the City Clerk and comply with the related city requirements for lobbyists before appearing before the City Commission. A person may not lobby a city official, board member, or staff member until registering. A copy of the code section about lobbyists is available in the City Clerk's office or online at www.municode.com. Any person making a presentation, formal request, or petition to the City Commission concerning real property must make the disclosures required by the City Code in writing. A copy of this City Code section is available at the office of the City Clerk or online at www.municode.com. The City of Miami requests that anyone requesting action by the City Commission must disclose before this hearing any consideration provided or committed to anyone for agreement to support or withhold objection to the requested action pursuant to City Code Section 2-8. Any documents offered to the City Commission that have not been provided 7 days before the meeting as part of the agenda materials will be entered into the record at the City Commission's discretion. In accordance with Section 2-33F and G of the City Code, the agenda and the material for each item on the agenda is available during business hours at the City Clerk's office and online 24 hours a day at www.miamigov.com. Any person may be heard by the City Commission through the Chair for not more than 2 minutes on any proposition before the City Commission unless modified by the Chair. Public comment will begin at approximately 10 a.m. and remain open until public comment is closed by the chairperson. Members of the public wishing to address the body may do so by submitting written comments via the online comment form. Please visit www.miamigov.com/meeting instructions for detailed instructions on how to provide public comment during the online public comment form, using the online public comment form. The comments submitted through the comment form have been and will be distributed to the elected officials, their staff, and city administration throughout the day so that the elected officials may consider the comments prior to taking any action. Additionally, the online comment form will remain open during the meeting to accept comments and distribute to the elected officials, their staff, and the city administration up until the chairperson closes public comment. The public comment may also be provided here live at City Hall, located at 3500 Pan American Drive, subject to any and all city rules as they may be amended. If the proposition is being continued or rescheduled, the opportunity to be heard may be at such later date before the City Commission takes action on such proposition. When addressing the City Commission, the member of the public must first state their name, their address, and what item will be spoken about. Any person with a disability requiring assistance, auxiliary aids, and services for this meeting may notify the City Clerk. The City has provided different public comment methods to indicate, among other things, the public support, opposition, or neutrality on the items and topics to be discussed at the City Commission meeting. In compliance with Section 286.0114, parentheses 4, parentheses C, Florida statutes, the public has been given the opportunity to provide public comment during the meeting and within reasonable proximity and time before the meeting. Please note, commissioners have generally been briefed by city staff and the city attorney's office on items on the agenda today. Anyone wishing a verbatim record of an item considered at this meeting may request it at the Office of Communications or view it online at www.miamigov.com. Planning and zoning items shall proceed according to Section 7.1.4 of the Miami 21 zoning ordinance. Parties for any PZ items, including any applicant, appellant, appellee, city staff, and any person recognized by the decision-making body as a qualified intervener, as well as the applicant's representatives and any experts testifying on behalf of the applicant, appellant, or appellee may be physically present at the City Hall to be sworn in by oath or affirmation by the City Clerk. The members of the City Commission shall disclose any ex parte communications to remove the presumption of prejudice pursuant to Florida statutes Section 286.0115 and Section 7.1.4.5 of the Miami 21 zoning ordinance. The order of presentation shall be as set forth in Miami 21 and in the City Code. Staff will briefly present each item to be heard. The applicant will present its application or request to the City Commission. If the applicant agrees with the staff recommendation, the City Commission may proceed to its deliberation and decision. The applicant may also waive the right to an evidentiary hearing on the record. For appeals, the appellant will present its appeal to the City Commission, followed by the appellee. Staff will be allowed to make any recommendations they may have. Please silence all cell phones and other noise-making devices. Access to the meeting. This meeting can be viewed live on Miami TV, the city's Facebook page, the city's Twitter page, the city's YouTube channel, and Comcast Channel 77. This broadcast will also have closed captioning. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. I believe we have some pocket items. Would
Chair,
you please?
I just have a statement to make as well.
I know, but can I get him to say the pocket items before your statement, or is there a protocol against that?
No.
Okay.
I have a pocket item, a resolution of the Miami City Commission with attachments authorizing the city manager to execute a statewide mutual aid agreement in substantially the attached form with the State of Florida Division of Emergency Management that provides for reciprocal aid and assistance to local governments in the event of an emergency too extensive to be dealt with unassisted, and also ensures the timely reimbursement of associated costs incurred by these local governments that render such assistance, further authorizing the city manager to execute and to negotiate and execute any and all other necessary documents, all in forms acceptable to the city attorney in furtherance of the terms and conditions of this agreement.
Thank you. Mr. City Clerk, would you?
There is a second pocket item. Commissioner Reyes has a pocket item pertaining to a resolution involving appointments, large appointments to the Civil Service Board, and the title of the resolution essentially is a resolution of the Miami City Commission appointing certain individuals as members of the Civil Service Board for terms as designated herein. So that would be PI 2.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. City Clerk, would you please read your statement for the record?
Yes. The procedures for individuals will be providing testimony to be sworn in for planning and zoning items. Any quasi-judicial items on today's City Commission agenda will be as follows. The members of city staff or any other individuals required to be sworn in who are currently present at City Hall will be sworn in by me, the City Clerk, immediately after I finish explaining these procedures. Those individuals who are appearing remotely may be sworn in now or at any time prior to the individual providing testimony for planning and zoning items and or quasi-judicial items. Commissioners, are you comfortable with all notice provisions set forth in these uniform rules and procedures we have established for this meeting?
Yes, thank you.
Chair, may I administer the oath for the planning and zoning items?
Please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If we be speaking on any of today's planning and zoning items, the PZ items, may I please have you stand and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at today's hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And your response is? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. At this time, Mr. City Manager, would you please advise this body of any items that will be deferred or withdrawn from the agenda?
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Mr. City Attorney, Mr. City Clerk. This time, the administration would like to defer and/or withdraw the following items. RE7 to be indefinitely deferred. PZ1 to be indefinitely deferred. PZ2 to be withdrawn. And PZ3 to be withdrawn. That concludes the items.
PC, the last one?
3.
PC3 is withdrawn?
Withdrawn. PZ2 and 3, both withdrawn.
Mr. Chair, do you have any items for consideration to be withdrawn or deferred? Commissioner Cabela? Commissioner Pardo?
I do. I'd like to indefinitely defer FR1. I'd also like to co-sponsor RE6 and co-sponsor SR1. And I just wanted to make a quick mention. I wanted to congratulate Juvenal Santana in Public Works for all the flooding we've been having. They've been amazing. They've really gotten out there and made a big difference.
I'll join Commissioner Pardo in that compliment.
Okay. Commissioner Reyes, do you have any items?
No, I don't have any items.
Okay. Mr. Manager, I would like to defer PZ 4 and 5 until the July 11th meeting. Mr. City Clerk has a statement.
Briefly, for the indefinitely deferred PC item, pursuant to Section 62-22 of the City Code, indefinitely deferred action initiated by the City will cost the City mail, noticing, advertising, and posting of properties as applicable.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, would you please run through the items that will be withdrawn and deferred again, just to make sure my colleagues have their list correct?
RE7 to be indefinitely deferred. FR1 to be indefinitely deferred. PZ1 to be indefinitely deferred. PZ2 to be withdrawn. PZ3 to be withdrawn. PZ4 to be deferred to the July 11th meeting. And PZ5 to be deferred to the July 11th meeting.
Thank you. At this time, may I have a motion to set the agenda, please?
Move it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And at this time, we are going to open the floor for public comments. Anyone who wishes to speak on items that are before us today, please come to the podium. Good morning, Elvis.
Good morning, Commissioner. Maybe somebody can go while I get hooked up.
Good morning. We're waiting for, is anyone else here for public comment? Anyone else for public comment? While he gets his...
Oh, here we go. Did you
Ready?
see it?
No.
Not yet.
Yes, I think it's coming.
Okay. Thank you. Elvis Cruz, 631 Northeast 57th Street. Here's a page from the City of Miami Zoning Atlas, 1975. You'll notice that the entire Watson Island is zoned park, as it was for many decades. Watson Park, it is labeled on the map. Parks should be considered sacred land to be protected. We need more parkland, not less. But item CA3 and 5 would open the door for condominiums on Watson Island that was once entirely a park. Here is a 1925 plat map of the City of Miami, and you may recognize the property here. That's a city cemetery, and above it, City Park. That park is today's Biscayne Park. It has been a City of Miami park for over 100 years. Again, parks should be considered sacred land to be protected. Schools should buy their own land, not take over parkland. Some are saying that this park is in bad shape and derelict, and therefore it should be given over to schools. If the park's in bad shape, it's not the park's fault. It's the city's fault for allowing the park to go into a bad shape. Again, we need more parkland, not less. Please do not allow Watson Island to have condominiums. Please do not allow Biscayne Park to become a school property. Please protect our parkland. Please vote down RE 3 and 5. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Christy Tasker. I'm a member of your Code Enforcement Board, and I live at 150 Southeast 25th Road. I come before you today on behalf of some of the members of the Code Enforcement Board and to report the issues that we are having that you guys could make a change in legislation on. So the Code Enforcement Board, many times we are seeing a lot of Airbnb situations, and the surrounding communities are massively being affected by the Airbnb properties. I know the governor has recently put constraints upon municipal legislation. So I want you guys to make sure that you get with the city attorney as quickly as possible to see if there's anything we can do as a municipality to confront the governor in terms of restricting you guys on legislating our local Airbnbs, because the Airbnbs are utilizing a lot of police resources, fire resources, and they're causing harm to our communities and inflated real estate prices. So we're seeing a lot of that on code enforcement. The other thing is nuisance. We're seeing a lot of nuisance situations where there are drugs involved. They are actively harming communities. Fentanyl is coming before the nuisance board. And our officers are actually being put at stake as well in the process, because they're repeatedly having to go out to the same properties over and over again, all while they're coming before the Code Enforcement Board where their image and everything is made public. The other thing, speaking of our images and our things made public, your Code Enforcement Board, while our images and everything are public, all of our information has to be public as well. So people know where we live, they know what cars we drive. So when it comes to privacy, it would be great if you thought about some of your boards that are having to make really active decisions, being able to be protected from the public as well. So those are the three things that I have, and hopefully you guys can make legislation on it. If you need, other comments or anything like that, I'm happy to meet with your legislative teams. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Manny Priegas, 4000 Malaga Avenue, Miami, Florida, representing South River Warehouse and its principal, Arturo Ortega, who owned parcels at 5 and 27 Southwest South River Drive on the Miami River since 2014. Mr. Ortega's plans from the day he purchased the parcels was to develop them for a restaurant use.
Excuse me,
I believe,
what item are you speaking on?
I'm getting to that right now.
I see.
I believe that Commissioner Reyes is sponsoring RE6 because there is a widespread sentiment by some commissioners and the public at large that legal fees are out of control at the City of Miami. The eminent domain lawsuit filed by the City of Miami in December 2021 is yet another example of wasted taxpayer money on legal fees. Allow me to explain. In December 2021, the city files an eminent domain lawsuit against South River Warehouse. During an order of taking hearing, the city obtains a favorable result. But instead of meeting its deadline of submitting a deposit for the 2 parcels, the city chooses to miss the deadline. The city right now could have been the owner of those parcels, but it chose not to. Litigation continues, and there's a trial date established on the value of the property, of how much the city is going to have to pay, September 9, 2024. So even though the city has, most importantly of all, on May the 30th, 2024, this year, South River Warehouse obtains their building permit. 687 days, 2 hours total processing time to develop 5 and 27. So even though the city has granted a building permit, the city continues prosecuting this case, spending thousands and thousands of dollars on legal fees. And the permitted design, which you have a copy of in front of you right now, already includes a linear park, which is the purpose of the lawsuit. What is the point of continuing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees for 2 small parcels on the Miami River that are going to be worth over $20 million as established by our valuation experts? This commission should rescind the exacting resolution that authorized the eminent domain and direct Mr. Wysong to dismiss the lawsuit, because hundreds of thousands of dollars will continue to be wasted for a project that at this point makes no sense. A building permit has been granted. There's too much money being spent. And I urge you to take action. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Grant Stern, 425 Northeast 22nd Street. So I'd like to speak on 2 issues. One is Resolution RE6 by Commissioner Reyes, which suspends the upfront payment of legal fees to anyone representing former or current city commissioners. And I want to just point out the gentleman before me is a perfect example of why the city attorney's office needs to be scrutinized under the new city attorney, and he needs to scrutinize the decision making and determine who the city attorney's office was truly representing and who they plan to represent going forward. Because we have a very large city attorney's office, the largest one in Miami-Dade County here, that can handle most of these matters, but they have judgment too. They can see when something intentional has taken place. I asked the former city attorney, Victoria Mendez, for a copy of the ordinance that authorized her to spend $10 million on outside legal counsel defending the city against egregious claims that were upheld by a jury verdict awarding $63 million to a pair of local businessmen against a rogue city commissioner. I got no response to that request because there was no authorizing ordinance. So I would urge this commission to vote in favor of Commissioner Reyes' RE6 item, to make sure that the commission holds the purse tight, because I'm telling you as a resident, when I go to the local park in Edgewater, it hasn't been updated in 20 years. But we're spending $10 million to defend one rogue city commissioner acting like a communist apparatchik with our neighborhoods. So this city needs to grab the purse more tightly and then start spending money in the places that have been developed so much, that are developing the city's tax base. Because right now, we're suffering from a lack of representation in the past in District 2. And a lot of that is, well, there's not enough money to go around. Well, there is. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Good morning.
Good morning.
What are you doing? Do you want to speak? Do you have something to
Oh,
say?
we're
We're not giving time if that's what you're about to say.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Okay, sit down. Thank
Okay.
you. Good morning.
I need IT. They have a laptop.
They know?
Yes, they know.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak while we wait for IT? They're coming.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. Billy Corbin on RE6 to suspend upfront payment of legal fees to outside counsel for current and former elected officials. This is performative nonsense. It does nothing to address how the city got in this predicament or what you should do to protect the city in the future. But it's adorable to see Commissioner Reyes suddenly pretend to care about this issue now that he thinks that he's running for mayor. It's just another day in the Miami Mafia. Here's the only thing you should be doing is extracting some guarantee for collateral from judgment debtor Carollo for the tens of millions in legal fees he has to pay back to the city, and let there be no doubt he owes that money to the taxpayers. Last summer, that $63.5 million corruption judgment was against him in his individual capacity, but don't take my word for it. Let's hear what Commissioner Carollo had to say.
Little Billy forgot to say, they had every opportunity to have brought the city in during my trial, so the city would be held liable for the judgment that was tendered against me. Something that I said from day one, the city had no responsibility for whatsoever. The city had no responsibility whatsoever. And the judge made it official. He had no other choice but to make it official. The city had no responsibility whatsoever.
If the city has no liability in the matter, why are we paying his legal fees? And as City Attorney Weissong said himself at the last meeting, quote, if you prevail in those cases, you're entitled to your attorney's fees. But if you, however, lose, it's up to us to seek those reimbursements. City Attorney, what actions has your office taken to seek those reimbursements from defendant and judgment debtor Carollo? I say all of you have the power to compel him to pledge his house as collateral to pay that money. Or he could write a check. Otherwise, the city must sue him. And if you don't, you'll be violating your fiduciary responsibility. And most astoundingly, we have no idea how much this has cost. I ask that you please, Madam Chair, ask the city attorney to place online, in the interest of transparency, the expenses related to all outside counsel payments on a monthly basis on the website. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You. Sir, in case you want to do that again, we don't have clapping in chambers unless it's during our proclamations. Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on behalf of? Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Chairwoman, Bella, Pardo. Good morning, Commissioners. How are you doing? My agenda of interest is CA3. I want to vote in favor of accepting the Department of Energy funding for resilience. And I'd also like to see if you'd consider hosting some kind of sunshine meeting about the flooding situation and the state of emergency that was declared, so we can get better information, see if we can get on the same page about plans, planning, and other opportunities for improving that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your advocacy. Seeing no one else for public comment, the public comment period is now closed. Gentlemen, may I have a motion for pocket item 1 and 2? I'm sorry. City Clerk
for pocket item 2, I'll need to read the names into the record.
Okay.
Yes, the appointment.
For the 5.
Yes, for pocket item number 2, Civil Service Board, Commissioner Cabello would like to appoint Miguel Soliman. Chairwoman King, Commissioner Pardo, and Vice Chair Corroyo would like to reappoint Rodrigo Jimenez, and Commissioner Reyes would like to reappoint Rafael Cabrera to the at-large seats.
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Pocket items 1 and 2 pass unanimously. Gentlemen, are there any of the CA items that you would like to pull for discussion? Vice Chair? Commissioner Reyes? May I have a motion to pass CA 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Gentlemen, in our RE items, are there any items that you wish to pull for discussion? RE 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That's it. Yeah. He's going to tell her.
Sorry, I'm sorry, not RE1. That's a mitigation. So, of any of the RE items, are there any items that you would like to pull for discussion?
On the RE2 solid waste assessment, It's kept flat, right?
I'm going to propose an amendment.
There's a presentation for RE2?
Not
No?
a presentation, just a request for an amendment to that item.
Okay, so we're going to pull RE2. Just
I don't need to pull it. I just like to find out on RE4 what is it that they're doing in that lot.
Yeah.
Adele?
You're the sponsor of that.
Yeah, I know. We're just renewing it
Right, renewing.
for another 6 months.
What is it that
It's
being done
pickleball.
there? Excuse me? Pickleball.
It's pickleball.
Oh, okay.
But it's called padel.
All right.
okay. I'd like to pull RE3 and RE5 for discussion.
Okay.
So may I have a motion to pass RE4, it seems, and RE4, because I'd like to also discuss RE6.
Motion.
So may I have a motion for RE4?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
RE4 passes unanimously. RE1, is there anyone here on behalf of the mitigation? Good morning, Director.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Commissioners. Robert Santos Harborna, Co-Compliance Director. I'll present. RE1 is the mitigation of a property located at 7751 Northwest 2nd Avenue. Respondent is Amsdale. This is a vacant lot, zone T5. The violations in question is for operating without a certificate of use, no business tax receipt, failure to maintain lot, and parking and storage of inoperable vehicles. The NOV was issued on June 6, 2022, adjudicated before Court Enforcement Board on 10/23/2022. Violation ran for 263 days, accruing a total of $131,500. The information I have from council is that the offer, the last one I received, was $6,575. That is equivalent to 5%. And I understand that council has information and support evidence that he wants to provide to you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Javier Fernandez here on behalf of Amstel Storage Venture 64 LLC, the property owner. I have a presentation I shared with the chairwoman. I can quickly run through it if it's your pleasure, or happy to proceed any way that chairwoman would like on this matter. I wanted to provide a little bit of context on the reason that we're proffering 5% as opposed to the more customary 15% amount, and wanted to explain that. But again, Madam Chair, happy to proceed however you like.
You probably need to explain it because I am not going to accept 5%.
Okay.
Not having to see you and not having a BTR, in addition to all of the other infractions that were named, that's not something that you just don't know. It's not a customary thing that would come before us. It's not what we hear, someone died, or...
And Madam Clerk, Madam Chair, that's exactly what I wanted to provide a little bit of context on, because I wouldn't make that proffer unless there were some rather extraordinary circumstances.
Go ahead if you think it'll make a difference.
Thank you. So just briefly, let me hand out copies of this as well. And I promise to be brief. So very quickly, on the screen here, the properties that my clients own are the storage facility right on 79th Street and the subject lot, which is the parking lot on a corner of 78th and Northwest 2nd Avenue. The one that is the subject of the violation is the parking lot. The storage facility originally was developed as an entertainment facility. It was a bowling alley, billiard room, skating rink between 1955 and 2004. In 2004, and that parking lot that has existed since that time, and the property to the north, which is now undeveloped, served as the off-site parking for that entertainment facility. In 2004, the use of the storage facility was converted to storage from entertainment, and the parking lot, which is the subject of the violation, has been used in support of that use since that time. My client was cited for the 4 violations. The 2 violations regarding the failure to maintain and the storage of untagged vehicles were resolved immediately. The use violation required a exception application to be processed in order to bring the property to compliance. When we were retained in July of last year, we did extensive research on the use history of the property, and unfortunately, we hoped to prove that the property was legal and non-conforming. Unfortunately, while there were extensive records about the conversion of the storage facility, there was no documentation as to the permitting of the improvements of the parking lot. Although, as I'll run you right through the images very quickly, you'll see that the lot to the north is improved, or you can see the remnants of asphalt and lighting. The historic aerials demonstrate that was parking before. Our lot has been used for storage since 2007 by the Google Street images that we could locate. So this gives you a sense of the historic condition of the property. December of 2022 was just shortly after, a couple of years after my client acquired the property and during the time of the violation. So unlike other situations where you had a property owner that was a bad actor, came into the property and affirmatively committed the violation, our client, when they brought this property in 2020, was under, I think, the reasonable assumption that not only was the storage use legal, but the parking lot was a legal ancillary use for storage, given that that had been the historic use of the property, at least by our understanding, since 2004.
Counselor,
Yes, ma'am.
what do we learn in school?
I'm sorry, ma'am. Your question?
Ignorance of the law?
It is no defense, but it does speak to the.
I don't know if things.
And ma'am, that's why we pled guilty at the hearing. That's why we spent the money to try to render the property legal and conforming. I address this because I think it speaks to the mitigation standards that you have in terms of the gravity violation and the actions taken by the property owner to correct those violations. And so at all times, I think we moved swiftly to correct the immediate violations that we could resolve, which were the failure to maintain and removing of inoperable vehicles. We proceeded again in November. We had finally granted a pre-application meeting for the exception to try to legalize the use. The reasons the fines began to run, frankly, are my fault, because when we were running up against the deadline for the extension of time, we submitted a request timely, and unfortunately, the email that confirmed the hearing date for that hearing was one that was sent to me, but went to my spam filter. And on March 22nd, I was not able to appear because I was not aware of the hearing. We followed up in early April and realized that we had missed the hearing, and unfortunately, the fines began to accrue. But my client would have been in compliance because we're advancing the application at all times, but for the fact that that hearing was missed. So again, we've taken responsibility for that missed hearing. We proffered the 5% amount for that reason because, again, the client, the company, was unaware of the legal nonconformity, but took steps to address it. And unfortunately, that hearing was missed and fines began to accrue. We made that proffer. I'm happy to get your thoughts on the counter, and we'll see if we can hopefully come to a quick accommodation on the item.
Let me see if staff has a...
Good morning, Rachel, on behalf of the Office of the City Attorney. What counsel says is correct. They did start to proceed to legalize and do everything they were supposed to do. The email confirming their date was stuck. I saw that. We spoke. Did go into his spam folder. Unfortunately for us, because of our code, we can't just say, we can't reset things. And so we can't set aside, because we did send it, everything went, but with technology, things happened. And so in the past, when we have technological glitches like this, their option is to come back and say, hey, we were doing everything, this mistake did happen. And I think that's probably why none of us have jumped up and down in terms of what their offer is on it. Because the glitch wasn't in, yes, you should know what you're getting into when you get it, but they did seek to address the issue once cited, continued to do so, and did legalize it in as timely a fashion as possible. It was a few hundred days from start, sort of, maybe less than a year from the violation to when they got it done. So they did work very timely, but the rest is up to you. But I can confirm that we did speak with regards to the thing, to the email going into his spam, unfortunately, and that's what you get for the notice, and that's how they go out. So,
Clearly, Madam Chair, embarrassing for me, but again, have to own the mistake. I would say for final consideration, no, it went to 264 days in terms of the matter. If you're inclined to provide any leniency, what I would ask is, you'll recall last September, we had a number of quorum issues with PZAB. We lost about 41 days in terms of our ability to get on an agenda as a result. So we would ask, if you're inclined to stick with the 264 as the baseline, that you maybe consider reducing that to 222 days, and we can factor whatever mitigation amount off of that basis. That would be my final comment for the record. Thank you.
Mr. Director, while I am sympathetic as a practitioner, we are not perfect. These things happen. But I also cannot set a precedent where I say, okay, you made a mistake, so therefore, because everyone is going to come before me and say, well, we made a mistake. And unfortunately, we have staff that are working, and I don't want anyone else to think that they can just do, and we'll say, okay, because that's why you're here before us. I do think we can take off the 41 days that it took you to get to PZAB. I don't think that's unreasonable. And in doing that, what would be the fine?
111, 100, if I'm not mistaken.
So that is correct. It's uncorroborated. So based on the 111, 100 at 15%, which is what has been the pattern here, that comes up to 16,665. That's my math. Is that accurate?
So I will accept 15% of the fine with the reduction of 41 days, which comes up to 16,000.
665.
Madam Chair, given the circumstances, would you be amenable to 10%, which would be $11,100, just given the facts? Again, this is not...
Given the facts, I'm giving you the
I
reduction of days. So no, I'll take the 15% at the reduction of the 41 days.
Understood.
May I have a motion?
Move. Yeah, no, I just want to say through the chair.
And how much that, excuse me, negotiating by 41 days, how much is the total?
It's about $3,000.
How much?
About $3,000 is the net effect of the reduction. I mean, it's maybe plus or minus a few dollars. Just doing the rough math. It was 19,970, Mr. Director, or somewhere in that range.
So minus the number of days at 221, at 250, that puts it at... Yeah. Oh, it's 500. Okay. That puts the total at $121,000 as opposed to the total accrued amount, and at 15% of that is I am showing 18,150.
18,000.
What I had said, and not to you, Madam Chairwoman, I apologize, because when we met, I had said the 15% that I thought, but when I was doing the agenda reviews, I had said based on the technology, and the fact is that we worked with counsel, and he's been very cooperative. In every other case, I had said no less than 10%, and 10% would have put it at 13,150 of the original amount. And that is what I was ready to recommend to you.
Why don't we just call it 15 with yours, if you're okay?
I like that. I was thinking that.
Let's call it an
make
even
it an
number,
even
15 grand. Are you okay with
And
that?
you guys figure out what the percentage.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
make it an easy 15,000.
Yes.
I have a motion
Motion.
and a second. All in favor as
Aye.
amended?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And
Thank you.
just on the record, that would be the reduction of the days at 15%, whatever that percentage is.
Thank you.
Sorry, so I just wanted...
I'm sorry, 15,000.
$15,000.
It's 15,000,
Right.
whatever
Right.
that percentage amounts to.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. RE2, Mr. Manager, you said you wanted to make an amendment.
Yes, Madam Chair. We've had a series of individual briefings and discussions with regards to some proposed modifications both in terms of operationally and in terms of fee structure related to the solid waste fee. With each and every one of you, we've gotten a lot of valuable feedback as part of that process. We'd like to continue that conversation. One of the, from a timing perspective, given the rate and the solid waste fee needs to be submitted to the county in early July. One of the requests is to modify or increase the cap, which is currently $380, which is the actual solid waste fee, by $60 to $440, which will give us the ability to continue to have conversations and briefings with each of you. We've looked at a number of different ideas and concepts in terms of protecting the residents and certain segments of our resident population, as well as dealing with some operational issues. We'd like to continue those conversations and still afford us the flexibility to propose an increase if you're amenable. In the end, that increase would not occur or would occur, or that discussion regarding the increase would occur during the budget process. And as a body, you can determine to keep it flat at the current rate or consider an increase at that time with the bonds. This just gives us the legislative flexibility to do so, and that's the request.
Madam Chair, does that mean that we are opening up the door for an increase without taking into consideration other alternatives? Because I believe that any increase that we do has to be because we have analyzed every single alternative that it is. For example, I have suggested, I don't know why they haven't done it, that the apartment buildings that we don't charge for any trash or bulk to them, we are picking up their bulk. You go buy any fourplex or 6 units or whatever, and you see a bunch of furniture, mattress, and all of that in front of the apartment building. We pick it up, but we don't charge it. I want to know why and how can we increase our revenues that way. And also, I'm not in favor of now giving you, giving the administration, giving you the opening the door that for an increase by allowing you to fluctuate the rate. You see, no, I won't vote on that. I will vote for a complete, thorough analysis of how can we bring more revenues. Maybe there will be an alternative bulk. It will be every 2 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. But just give it a carte blanche now that we are going to raise the cap. I don't think that it's, in my opinion, it's a good idea. I think that we should have a comprehensive analysis of how can we increase the revenues and how can we hurt the least. The least are particularly our retirees and the population that at this moment there have been rate increases, not increases. Inflation is killing them. You see, so I don't know about the rest of my colleagues, but I don't agree with that. What I want to do is let's go and do a serious and thorough analysis on how can we increase revenues, taking all the alternatives. You see, analyzing every single one, the alternatives and the effect it's going to have.
So, Commissioner, if I may, that was all discussed as part of our discussion with you, and as well has been discussed with each members of the commission individually. The idea is to take all of that into consideration. The approval today and the amendment to the resolution gives us no carte blanche authority to do anything without your approval, because that all occurs during the budget process. So we are limited by your action. So in the end, as a body, you'll determine whether or not any fee increase is warranted based on the additional information we provide. Obviously, we intend to come back to each and every one of you and address some of the comments that you gave us during our briefings. The issue with this solid waste fee and the request for the cap is entirely about timing and the requirement we have to submit a cap to the county, and that's really what this is all about.
But one thing that I don't understand, Mr. Chair, why do we have to deal with increasing the cap or leaving or opening the cap now if we're not going to take any action? You see, if we take action, we are the ones that are going to set the cap. See, why are we now voting in favor of increasing the cap if no action is going to be taken? You see, that's one thing that I don't understand.
Commissioner Reyes, we're not voting to increase the cap.
No,
we're giving them the option. We're giving them the authority to get wheels in motion for Miami-Dade County in the event that we as a body decide we want to increase or not increase. Without us taking the action today to give them the authority to work with Miami-Dade County, if we so choose, we'll miss that opportunity. So nothing happens today other than giving our administration the authority to work with Miami-Dade County for the tax rolls.
Okay, we can do that without mentioning the cap.
That's what we're doing. That's
Look,
exactly
if you don't
what
mention
we're
the
doing.
cap, I'll go for it. But when you mention that you are leaving the cap open for increases or decreases, I don't see why. You have all the authority to go and deal with the county.
No, sorry,
No,
don't.
He doesn't.
Well, we'll give you the
That's what
authority.
we're trying to give him
Well,
the
we'll give you the
authority
authority to go and deal with the
I
cap
believe
without the cap.
Hold on a second.
Madam-
I see the city attorney.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to point out that non-ad valorem assessments are treated differently than tax. So pursuant to Chapter 197-3632, you have to establish the rate, advertise it, and then that goes on the trim bill and ultimately in a meeting before September 15th. So non-ad valorem assessments have to be resolved on or before September 15th in order to use the uniform collection method. So now we need to come up with a number that we're going to put in the notice.
Not today, George,
Well, it's got to be done relatively soon.
but not today.
Well-
This, from what we understood, this resolution's purpose was to give our administrators the authority to start the process.
No,
Technically, it sets
it's
the
very
rate.
clear. When your trim notice goes out from the county, it sets the rate. The non-ad valorem tax rate, it sets that the city may increase it up to this maximum. May, by the way. In the end, you will take action during the budget process and determine, hey, we are inclined to or we're not inclined to increase this at all. But that happens during the budget process. So in the end, that decision will have to be made by September 15th, which George duly noted. All you're doing is set, hey, the most the city can charge for the solid waste fee is $440. That's exactly what we're taking. But you can choose to keep it at the rate it is now.
Commissioner Cabela?
Yes, okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So two things. Whatever we do, I want to make sure that the senior citizens are exempt, and that I think we agreed to. Number two, we haven't changed that cap from 380 in 14 years, I understand, when I had my meeting with you guys. And I'm concerned in my area that there's a trash problem. We've been having pickup problems because of the capacity of our services. So at some point, we need to do something. We haven't done anything for 14 years. I spoke with you guys, and we brainstormed, and one of the ideas was, hey, instead of picking up 4 bulk pickups per week, 1 per week, 4 per month, why don't we do 2 per month? That's an idea. The other one, Manolo, was on the recycling. Instead of picking up 2 times a month, why don't we do 1? And we can get some substantial savings from there. But what I understand full well what he's saying. What he's saying is, let's set a cap today, but it's not engraved in stone. I'm prepared to set that cap at 430. Okay, I know you guys wanted 440. I'm prepared to do it at 430. If my colleagues are, I don't know where my colleagues are, but what I want to do is I don't want to gouge the taxpayer. You guys know how I feel about that, and I don't think any of you do either. But you want the services given. I need the services given in my area so we got a problem. They're telling us, solid waste is telling us they have a problem, a legitimate problem. So we got to do something. And whatever we do, I can assure that from my end, senior citizens are not going to be touched. Those that can't pay, they're not going to be touched. But again, I reiterate, we've been at 380 stuck for 14 years. Okay, we have to do something, either cut services or increase the dollar amount. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Wait, hold on, Commissioner Reyes. Commissioner Pardo would like to speak.
I'm in favor of exploring revenue alternatives. I'm shocked that for 14 years we've never had an increase. I think, actually, I think that's a little bit irresponsible because what's the county's rate? 547, and our rate?
380.
380.
Yeah,
So I'd like us to consider other revenue alternatives. We know that we're the lowest municipality. We know that we're kind of putting ourselves in a box on this issue. So I'd like to see us raise the cap to the recommended amount, 440. That doesn't mean it's 440. It doesn't mean it's 430, 420. We can all decide to keep it where we want to if that's the case. But it gives us the maximum ability if we find information or other considerations. We're not limiting our options, and that's what I would be in favor.
Hold on, Commissioner Reyes.
Yes,
Hold on, Commissioner Reyes. Vice Chair, do you have?
I do. Can anybody name anything for me that for 14 years in this particular day and age, the price hasn't gone up outside of our garbage fee? If the administration, or if not the solid waste director, could tell us how much does it cost us to collect garbage, to do the pickups or recycling, and the trash that's thrown out in the streets each year, how much is the total amount that it costs us, including the fees that we have to pay the county where we send that trash to, or the private firm, which goes up every year. And how much do we collect from residents and all other fees in collecting garbage, et cetera? And what is the deficit that we have?
Okay, Commissioner, the first question that you asked, we had the actual fee for the rate that we were looking at is $7.97. That's what we're looking at as far as the deficit that we're in.
So you're saying that for us to be even, we would have to charge $7.97.
$7.97.
Okay. So in
or
millions of dollars, what is the total deficit that we presently have? It's more.
20 million.
How much?
20 million, 25.
20 million.
25.
Okay. That's the deficit that we have, which is huge. So I think that you could see that if we raised it even $1 or $50 or $60, we're still going to have a huge deficit. And frankly, no one can point a finger at us if that's what we're doing it for. Now, having said that, let me put the other side of the issue down, which I know that people are going to say that, well, one has nothing to do with the other, but it does. Every year, even though we keep lowering our millage rate, our tax rates keep going up because the property appraiser keeps evaluating and assessing the properties that we own at a higher amount. Well, that's great that they're worth more, but it's only great for those who want to sell. Those who want to live in their home, in many cases, if you're elderly, you're being forced to sell and leave your home because they're killing you in taxes. I will tell you that I got hit with a 29% increase, whether my home deserved that or not, or it was a political increase. I don't know. But that's huge. So what I'm trying to say is that on one hand, while we do have the cheapest and the most services that we provide in collecting your garbage, your recycling, your trash than any governmental body, and we have over $20 million in deficit, our taxpayers are paying a huge amount more each year that we're collecting on the other end on the property assessments. So we have to weigh all that in whatever we do, because we also have to be fiscally responsible. And if we're getting a huge increase every year that we're seeing in what we're bringing in because of higher assessment of properties, you know, we need to do what we've been doing and using that money to offset that deficit that we have. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does make sense. I mean, we have...
Commissioner Reyes.
Yes, it makes
I'm
a lot of sense.
I'm winding us down now because we've all had a chance to speak, but for me,
Okay.
I'm winding us down now.
Okay, it makes a lot of sense. We have, I know that we are the lowest, or one of the lowest, fees in Dade County. I know that, but I believe that yes, we might need to increase some of the fees, but at the same time, what Commissioner Carroyo, I think that you took a class in economics, because one thing offset the other. Our taxes have been increasing tremendously. The tax revenues have been increasing tremendously throughout the years. Okay, granted. We are the lowest. That's fine. That is fine. We are the lowest. But if we want to increase the revenues that we are going to receive for people paying for collecting their garbage, we have to look at every single source of revenue possible. For example, you have said that you told me that you can privatize recycling. You say that. How much are we going to save there? How much we will save, or how much extra are we going to get if we we collect from those businesses, because apartment buildings are businesses. If we charge them whatever it is, let's say $300, $400, whatever it is, because we are picking their bulk trash. We are picking it up, and we are not charging anything. Those are the things that I want to see before I make a decision. And if the decision comes that we have to increase certain amount, and we do exceptions to people that are over 65, retirees and all of that, I'd be willing to work with that, but not just like this. You know, let's raise it to 480. No, I think that we have to be professionals. We have to look at every single source of revenues. See, how can we, reduce that deficit? See, and once you bring that to me, I don't know how the other commissioners are going to vote, but I am not going to vote for anything that doesn't bring to the table a thorough analysis.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Hold on. Commissioner Pardo had his hand up, and then I'll recognize Commissioner Gabella, and then myself, and prayerfully we will close this discussion.
It's short. I just want to make sure that we do a good job of getting resident feedback on this, because we have a weekly bulk trash pickup. There's some municipalities that do it twice a year. They're getting a really high standard of service. And I think in my neighborhood, they are going to, that weekly bulk trash pickup is essential. I don't know that that's true across the board, and I'd like to see what we get back from residents on the issue.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Let me,
Commissioner Gabella.
yeah, let me say this. Before we think of, and I for one, I agree with you on this, Manolo, I think what you're trying to say and what I'm saying is that before we do any increases, let's make sure that we can cut wherever we can there's inefficiency. And let me bring one thing up that nobody wants to, I've been told not to do it, but you know what? I'm going to do it. Let's talk about the recycling situation that we have going on, that I understand not only 95% of our trash is not recyclable. It's not getting done. Only 5% is recyclable. Now, if we want to say, okay, we're doing this to feel good about ourselves, that's okay. But the reality of the situation, as I've been told, is that the trash that we're picking up in the city of Miami, 95% of it, folks, is not recycled. It's not getting recycled. So maybe we need to look at that and see what's going on there. And again, I reiterate, I'm with you, Manolo. I do not want a tax increase of any sort or any increase until we explore all the avenues, until there's no rock unturned, and we explore all the avenues that we can cut from here, from there, to do what you got to do. And then I'll just state that for the record. That's all. I'm done.
Thank you. I agree with my colleagues. I've said this in our briefings. I am concerned about any increase. While I understand that the city hasn't increased their fees in decades, however, we are struggling as a community now. Every single homeowner has received a shortage, an escrow shortage, because the state has not bothered to intervene on behalf of its residents with respect to insurance hikes. Mortgage companies do not care about the politics of Florida and our escrow shortages. They will foreclose on anyone's house. I do not want to see an increase affect our seniors in a way that jeopardizes them or puts them in jeopardy of losing their home. They live on a fixed income, and even a dollar increase would be too much for many of our seniors. And I've expressed this to you in our briefings. I am open to look at alternative sources of revenue. There are, even within your department, perhaps, alternative sources to obtain revenue, like the private haulers and that kind of thing, and is why I also pulled RE3 and RE5 to tie this discussion in. But I understand that we're not making a decision today, which is why I'm in favor of moving the item now. May I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? To approve this item
As is.
As is. As is.
That means without the increase in cap. No, we're not looking at the cap. Whereas the cap is just giving us options. We're not increasing the
Let's
rate.
have the administration weigh in instead of us trying to guess
So
at
the
what
request
this is.
was to amend the item to increase the cap to 440. That's what the request was. So we'd hope that would be the motion to.
But it is not engraved in stone today.
No, it's just increasing the
This is a
cap
number that we're
ultimately
using
as a
basis.
body during the budget process and ahead of that September 15th deadline. The commission will make a decision, and the decision may very well, we want to leave it the same based on additional information we provide to you from here to then. And then
Okay,
So based on
the
my motion,
item-
I'm making it on what he just said.
Okay, so the
based on
item
the
before
440
us now is to
baseline.
approve with the amendment to take the cap to 440. That's what we are voting on. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a
Second.
second? I have a motion and a second. Vice Chair?
That I need from the administration. What is our cost per year on the pickup or recycling only?
Commissioner, I'm working on those numbers. I don't have those numbers right before me, but I'm working on those numbers. We had it in a previous presentation.
Come on, you guys should have those numbers easily.
But I had it in a previous presentation. I just don't have that before me, but I have those.
Approximately how much do you think it is?
About $3-4 million, because that's what we're looking for.
3 to 4.
$4 million.
$4 million.
Yes.
Okay, $4 million.
Approximately.
Okay, approximately. Have you calculated the $60 that you have asked as a possibility, how much more revenue will that bring us a year?
So, Commissioner, speaking with each and every one of you, and hearing the different ways of trying to reduce this fee, we're asking that you just give us the opportunity to go back, bring back some of the suggestions that were made to us.
I understand that, but my question is different than what you're telling me. My question is, the $60 potential increase, if we were to charge the full $60, how much more revenue would that bring us?
Wait, take the presentation, and if you'll look, there's increases that were made at
I'm looking at it now.
$55. You're going to have to just do some modified math.
It's about 3.5 million.
You guys are going to have to be a little more prepared if you want for us to approve monies.
Well, $60 multiplied by how many users, right?
Right.
Well,
It's about
I don't know
approximately
that.
$3.5 million.
Yeah.
Approximately.
Approximately.
Okay, it's approximately $3.5 million, you think? Okay. Now, out of all the service that we provide, the one that if we cut back on is going to be the least harmful will be recycling. Instead of having one pickup of recycling each week, if we go to every other week,
That's
that
currently
should,
what it's at today. It's
Excuse
every,
me?
yes, it's twice a month right now.
we have it twice a month.
Recycling is twice a month, yes.
Okay, so even if you bring it to once a month on recycling, that cuts the approximately $4 million to $2 million. So you don't need the whole 60 amount. You need about $25 then instead of 60 if you would do
So
that.
I believe
And
what,
that's what
what
we-
staff is trying to say is that they will do all of these calculations and give us different projections
Right.
based on the feedback that
We got
we
from
have
them.
given them. They're just right now asking that we approve the item as amended.
I understand that, but I want them in particular in the recycling to come back to us on this one, because I think this is one area that I believe will have consensus in.
Okay.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
With one nay. Thank you.
As amended.
As amended.
Thank you.
Again, until this comes back to this body for the budget approval for the next fiscal year, nothing is set in
Nothing.
stone.
Correct.
Nothing is set.
And if I may add, could you-
Commissioner Reyes?
through the chair, if I may add, please, because this is not the first time that I have been asking about a thorough analysis of different revenues that we could receive. I've been this same question I've been asking since I got elected. How can we increase our revenues? How? Privatizing recycling, whatever. But bring us some solutions. You see, a thorough analysis of what is going on and how can we do it. I don't want to place the burden on the back of our residents, particularly those retirees that they are living as Madam Chair says that they live in a fixed income and everything hurts them.
Right. So with RE 3 and 5, I pull those because it piggybacks on what we are talking about. These two projects have the potential to bring a substantial amount of revenue to the city. And in our last commission meeting, there was a debate about the Omni CRA and the need for Alipata. District 5 also has needs, and we need to identify other sources of revenue to assist our communities in thriving. We cannot have pockets of extreme wealth in our community when there are pockets of extreme poverty that are not going addressed. So I am not in favor of RE3 or RE5 unless we can carve out a significant benefits, community benefits package for our community. I'm all for improving spaces. However, we cannot continue to do so and the poorer communities in the city of Miami go unaddressed. The issues go unaddressed. So I will not be in favor of RE3 or RE5 unless there's a significant community benefits package agreed upon. And perhaps we could look at some of the projected revenue coming from either of these projects. And I understand that they are separate projects. They're not combined. One is the Jungle Island project and one is the Watson Island project. And I understand that. However, I have to continue to advocate for my community. And it's not just my community, because I think maybe there would be a path forward to identifying revenue for our issue with the solid waste fee increase. Sure. Maybe this is an avenue for that. But I want to make it clear that without administration, the applicants carving out a community benefits agreement that is suitable, I don't even want to move forward with this, because I understand my authority in negotiating, and this is as best a time as ever because I will have your attention. And I don't intend for me to be extremely happy with our negotiation, nor do I expect the applicants to be happy with the negotiation. But if we can meet somewhere in the middle, I believe the residents of Miami will prosper. And that is my intent. I will open the floor up to my colleagues. I see Commissioner Reyes has his hand up.
Yes, and I agree with you that we have to look for every kind of revenues that we can obtain to try to improve the quality of life of districts that they are in need. But remember, Madam Chair, it's not only 1 and 5. There is also 3 and 4. They need.
I'm including you as well.
Okay.
The entire
because there are pockets of
yes.
poverty
Yes.
and also in all those districts. And that is why I think that we have to spread the wealth.
I agree. I believe Commissioner Pardo's hand.
I just wanted to add that comment takes different form in different districts. Yes. You can look at Watson Island, you can look at the urban core, and the state of the infrastructure is horrific. That's where you're seeing a lot of the enormous flooding problems, a lot of the traffic problems, a lot of the growth problems. We just keep adding density, but we're not dealing with any of those. So we also need to fund those concerns.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Let me see if any of my Commissioner Cabela.
What? No, I'm agreeing with. I'm listening to all of you, and yes, I'm on board. What he just said, Commissioner Paito said, and of course we want the benefits for our neighborhoods, right? How this is also, I imagine you're talking about impact fees and other fees collected to be distributed.
Not only.
Well, we'll get to that, but no, that's all I have to say.
Vice Chair.
I heard what you said, and there are ways of looking at it. That's certainly one way, and then the next step would be if there are community offerings, how we go about it. And look, well, it'd be nice to say we split it evenly in each district. I think we have to look at where the biggest needs are. And if we go by the traditional way that we would do it, I think District 5 would be number 1. District 1, I think right now would probably be number 2. District 3 would be next. District 4 would be close to District 3. And District 2 is the one with the least poverty. So that's...
Madam Chair,
believe-
I have to say something. I mean, come on. Really? Really?
You know it's true, Commissioner Pardo. You know it's true.
Yeah,
But in my statement,
I would like
right,
to.
but in my statement, I included the entire city of Miami. In so doing, when I referenced the solid waste fees, that doesn't just impact District 5 or District 1 or 3 or 2. It impacts the entire community. So I'm not looking at this as a grab only for my district. I'm thinking about the entirety of the city of Miami. In addition to, yes, there are districts that have extreme pockets of poverty, District 5 being probably number 1, District 1 being number 2, and so forth, just like Vice Chair suggested. But I want everyone to understand that I'm not just going to blanket approve these projects without consideration for the entirety of the city of Miami. And I believe the applicants would like to speak. I'll recognize.
But can I just say one thing before you
Oh,
recognize?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I apologize. Go ahead.
Thank you. District 2, we know, is a donor district, right? So 70+% of revenue for the whole city comes from District 2. District 2 already is subsidizing every single district based on its tax base. But District 2 is the urban core, and any kind of economic collapse of that urban core, because we all transit through downtown, we all transit through Brickell, we are all using the infrastructure that's available in that area. And if that area collapses, we all collapse. So when we talk about the areas of needs, we also need to put them in these different, perspectives, so that we really realize that we have this one area that really isn't doing well, and that's the urban core.
Good
Mrs.
afternoon.
Escara.
Good morning, everyone. Iris Escara with offices at 333 Southeast 2nd Avenue. I'm here on behalf of BH3 IG Developer, which is the Watson Island on the south side of the causeway. I'm here to answer any questions, but I did want to make sure that we put into a statement into the record that we are committed to enhancing our public benefits package to benefit all the communities, all the districts, and so forth. So we stand committed. And if you would indulge us, Madam Chair, the item today is a directive to bring that back. And we are committed to negotiating over the next 30 days or so, like before July 25th, to bring back a benefits package you would all be proud of. So I thank you, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have, but I wanted to let you know we are committed to enhancing. We have a benefits package, because we have an old lease, but however, we're committed to enhancing it and bringing it forward to make you on. I'm happy to meet with all your district, your offices and so forth, and gather information to that end.
Thank you. Mr. Kasdan, how are you?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Neeson Kasdan, Ackerman LLP. I represent ESJ Leasehold and Eco Resiliency with regard to item RE5. And this proposed ballot item would be to enter into a sale or lease of only the 5.4 acres of the existing 18.7 acres on Watson Island that is encumbered by a lease. I do want to point this out. Today, there is a lease that encumbers all of the 18.7 acres on the north side of Watson Island. This proposal would do two very significant things. I should say three in light of the chair's remarks. Number one, 13.3 of those acres will be returned to the public as a public waterfront park paid for by the developers. 13.3 acres. The remaining 5.4 acres, on which is already approved a hotel as well, would instead become a place for residential development, significantly less intense uses. So we will have 13.3 acres of public park heretofore, which the city doesn't have, a less intense residential development with limited commercial attendant to it, and significantly much, much more revenue to the city of Miami. And we are committed, Commissioner King and other members of the Commission, to have those revenues benefit each and every sector of the city that is in need. And we will certainly engage with the city in a robust benefits package that will benefit the entirety of the city. So you have our commitment. We're working with your staff now, As Iris said, within 30 days, we should have a package I think everyone will be happy with, will benefit the city.
And a public beach.
And the public. Right. I mean, this is, on top of everything else, that this public park that's being created in the center of the city waterfront park will be for every resident and all public benefit. But the revenue derived from this proposal will be able to benefit other neighborhoods as well in significant ways.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I am clear and it is on the record that I am looking for a community benefits package that will be specific to District 5 as well as the residents of the city of Miami.
Loud and clear, Madam Chair.
Okay. Do any of my colleagues want to have?
No, I just want to reiterate one thing that Mr. Kasdan did. What we're doing here, we are just changing the use of that land that has been already, it is leased, right?
It is leased.
It is leased already. The only thing that we're doing is changing it. And for once, in my opinion, I look at it and we are going to, at last, we're going to have a full development of Watson Island.
Yep. Yes, sir, that is correct.
That is, we have done it piecemeal, and every time that we get one of these actors that have been, we haven't been too happy with them. So this is a comprehensive development of Watson Island that is long overdue.
Yes, sir, that is correct. And with the largest portion by far going back to the public for its use. As you and I can remember when we were young kids, when we would go to Watson Island.
Yeah, I remember. And I have my scares there too.
Is there anyone else, any one of my colleagues that would like to make a statement? Vice Chair.
Ask a question of the city attorney and then ask a question of Neasden. In what we are being asked to approve this here today, is it clear that this will then come back to us at the last meeting of July?
Yes, sir. The way the charter amendment process is set forth in the city code, we have this first resolution directing us to prepare a question and bring it back.
Okay.
And so nothing happens unless the actual act of placing it on the ballot and approving the question will be in that
right.
second July meeting.
So for me, I would prefer to defer the item to the next commission meeting. It still gives you time, but at least we would have fleshed out the community benefits, because I don't want to operate on someone else's timeline. The community is not on a timeline, and I want to make sure that the community is benefiting before I commit to even taking this step. I would like to defer the item until the first meeting in July so that administration, the applicants, as well as my colleagues have an opportunity to view where you are, because right now all we have is conversations. I don't have anything in stone. I don't have anything close to an agreement. So I don't believe that deferring this item until our first meeting in July would be detrimental to the process. Am I correct, Mr. City Attorney?
You could defer it and it wouldn't affect the process.
Thank you.
It tightens it
If
up a
I
little
may,
bit.
Madam Chair, if I could just interject one moment. We have the holiday week coming up next week, so we'll be having a shortened period of time to be able to meet with everybody, because we have July 4th is kind of like in the middle of the week.
Well, you know, you guys should have maybe brought this before. The timing was not my idea. I am saying that before I vote on this item, I would like some indication of what we have come together to create these community benefits. There's no detriment to these projects going on the ballot by deferring the item to the first meeting in July. However, it does send a clear message that this body is concerned and adamant about having a genuine community benefits agreement in place before we move forward. And I don't know if my colleagues will support me on that. Commissioner Gabella.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. So, look, and I share your concern, but in light that, George, that if we did this today, this is not engraved in stone, they have to come back to us, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
at that point, if we were not in agreement with anything, they had to say or offer, right then and there it dies, right? This is not passing anything, this is not, this is purely
Right.
them getting the ball rolling.
The critical date is the 2nd July
I'm
meeting.
asking. And I share the chairwoman's concern, by the way.
Yeah. So I agree with what you said. I just wanted to mention that the critical date is the 2nd meeting in July. The county election supervisor says that they won't accept questions after Friday, July 26th. Our meeting is on Thursday, July 25th. So long as we approve the question on Thursday, July 25th, it can make the ballot. If it doesn't make that time frame, then we're looking at a different election.
Can I just ask? Yeah, in light of what he said, how does what doing what the chairwoman is proffering, how is that a nuisance to you guys? Is there, well,
If I may, I can tell you, we hear you, Chairwoman, and all the members of the commission loud and clear on the public benefits package. And we stand committed to making sure that we will be bringing each one of you our benefits package for discussion before that item. So while I understand, Chairwoman, you want to send us a message, we got your message already. It's loud and clear, and we're committed to making sure that we do such. We would just ask if this item can please advance, so like that we know our time frame, and it actually applies even triple the pressure on us to make sure that we meet that deadline timely, because we have to get those items on your backup agenda for that July 25th item.
Chair. Through the chair, Madam Chair.
Hold on. Commissioner Reyes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. You see, I agree with you that we need a commitment, a firm commitment for benefits that as you clearly stated. But my only fear is that if we let's say defer this, it gives us less time that when they come with the package of benefits. And if we don't agree with it, and the argument that will definitely come about, we have less time to reach an agreement and then vote in favor or against it. You see, I believe we should.
I don't think so. I think it gives us more time because they'll come back. I hope that we'd have everything resolved first meeting in July, or 90%. Resolved in first meeting in July. We pass it, everything moves. But I'm here for the will of the body. I think it would be more prudent for us to defer the item and allow them to come to us so we would have something, because that way we move forward. But again, it's the will of this body. Nothing happens if we defer the item. It does not jeopardize the items going before the ballot. But it also lets our applicants know that we are committed to seeing a community benefits package. I'm going to let Mr. Kasdan speak.
Madam Chair, I would just note, though, that this is only direction to draft the ballot language. This is not approving the ballot language. This has, I think, historically been the path that the city has recommended, that you give direction to draft it, but you're not approving the ballot language, nor are you approving the agreements.
I understand. And if it was that simple, we wouldn't be having so much commentary about it. If it was that simple, because you guys want us to move forward with it. And again, based on your argument, nothing happens.
It's actually the opportunity to come back to you. The item today is just giving us the opportunity.
I'm going to allow my vice chair to speak.
Chair, I believe you had made a motion. I'll second that motion. Let me say this, that the city attorney and together with the city manager, they're smart guys. That's why we have them there. They can as easily be drafting, if they don't have it done already, which I would have to think they probably do, have it drafted. Whatever to place both of these items on the November ballot. So I don't see the harm in bringing this back in the first meeting in July. Then we vote on it in the second meeting in July. If I would see the harm in that, I might feel differently about it, because I do feel that this should go on in the November election. That's when you get the most people that go out and vote. So you're going to have the maximum amount of city of Miami citizens that will vote on this. Having said that, the present owners of the parcel that you represent, Nathan, not Madam Attorney, they had committed at one of the previous meetings where they kept coming back to get breaks into the millions of dollars from the city, because otherwise they would go broke and we would not get anything, they would say. You remember that? Okay. And I predicted that something like this would happen, and here we are. They had committed that they were going to maintain forever the Japanese garden on your side of Watson Island. What is your project envisions for where the Japanese gardens is now? Is that going to be part of your development, part of the park, or what? And if it's not part of the development side, are you going to keep that commitment that we had to maintaining that from here on?
Commissioner, that is a part of the discussion we are having with the city staff right now, including potential funding for renovation of that garden. So that's part of our discussion.
Yeah, and that should be part of your benefits package.
Yes, sir.
That you give. Okay. The other aspect is, and we could look at it as part of a benefits package also, the maintenance of the new park that we're going to have.
Absolutely.
And it's great to hear that, oh, this has always been a park. It's been a dust bowl in the past. It became a park when Bern Levine took it over and made it into a real attraction that people enjoyed. And then after he sold his lease to the present owners, it's been back to nothing, speculations. So to hear that we're going to have a real park, 13 plus acres, that's going to take an ecological outlook to it, I find that exciting and something that our residents are truly going to enjoy. Yes. Plus, I think it's a plus that you're building away from the water line. That's another plus for many reasons. Not only are you going to be further away from neighbors on Venetian Isle, but the whole waterfront will be available to the public. That's a big plus. So I personally need answers to those questions.
Commissioner, you will see that ongoing maintenance and payment for it is first and foremost one of the items in the agreement. Understood.
Madam Chair, through you. So you know what? I'm going to agree with you and use prudency here, because I think there's worry here, and like I said, if it doesn't damage them, and why not? So I'm going to be voting.
So Commissioner Pardo wants to say, just so on the record, there's a motion to defer, and I have a second to defer the item to the first meeting in July. Commissioner Pardo?
So I've heard two things pretty clearly. Number one, you got our message.
Oh, yeah. It's like lightning.
I get that.
It's coming through. We got the message.
Number two, you'd also like the flexibility of working around the holiday to be able to work through it. As the sponsor of the item, I would rather that we do not defer this, But would you agree to come and give an update at our next meeting?
Definitely. We could definitely, we're happy to do that and present to the board where we are. So like that, there's almost like a preview before July 25th.
I'm firm with the deferment, so that's on the floor. There's a motion and a second to defer the item to the July 1st, the first meeting in July. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And that is for RE3 and RE5 to July
Yes.
11th.
So I don't know how, it's 3. Commissioner Reyes, how did you vote? It's 4.
1, no.
4-1. 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Was to the July?
The first meeting in July. And the next item before us is RE6.
Madam Chair, if I may ask a question, for your indulgence. If we are done by July 11th, which we hope to be with all the package, could the directive also be that the item be put on the July 11th as a placeholder? So if the package is correct, we can also have the ballot question and the other items together?
You could work that out with administration.
Right. So I just want to make sure the city attorney, if he's okay with that. Hopefully we are local, so we'll be here every day. I'm available like right after this. So we'll get started right away.
Are you saying put the actual ballot language question
The
on
directive.
the 11th?
Do you need the directive? This
No,
motion.
That's
okay.
what I.
Yeah, we'll carry, it's being deferred.
Excuse me.
Right, so it's carrying over to the first
This
meeting.
motion.
Right. I'm just saying the ballot item, if it could, if we're going to, on July 11th, if we can move up from the 25th to the 11th.
The print deadline is Tuesday for that item, so I don't
Understood.
know if we have the time to work all that out.
Madam Chair, now that we have deferred this that it is, but I'm afraid of a timeline. And we give a directive to the city attorney to start working on the language that is going to be placed on the ballot and have it ready for next commission meeting?
George?
So it has to be done by Tuesday, so we could get it done, but it's going to require, I don't know if they'll have the time.
Well, at least, we need a
discuss the public
draft.
benefits by
We
Tuesday.
need to know what is going to go on the ballot.
Yeah.
My fear is that we are going to run out of time to place it in the ballot. And in order to gain time, I am giving you a directive to start working in the language.
Yeah, we're already working on the language.
Start working on the language?
They're already doing that.
Okay.
So let's move
But-
along.
but,
Let's move along. RE6.
Okay.
Thank
How
you
did
very
I know that,
Thank you.
George?
So RE6, does anyone want to have discussion on this item? I can tell you again, my position as it was before, it will be the same today. I am not in support of this item. Again, I am not interested in giving up any right that I have as a public servant that the Florida Supreme Court has recognized. I again want to have my colleagues subtract any actors that has prompted this resolution. The staff and public officials, we are variables X, algebraic variable X. I am not interested in upfronting legal fees if someone attempts to sue me in my capacity as an elected official. I'm not interested in being reimbursed. I am a practitioner, and as a practitioner, understand this better than most. Anyone can come and sue us a number of times in our capacity, and I'm not willing to have to represent myself with an onslaught of lawsuits. I'm just not going to do that. I am the only one up here that probably can represent myself and then charge the city the highest fee for a practitioner
Madam Chair?
and get the city attorney to pay for me. So again, I'm putting on the record, I am not in support of this. This flies in the face of the Florida statutes as well as opinions from the Florida Supreme Court. Commissioner Reyes, you're
That's
recognized.
right. Let me make clear that this doesn't prohibit the city attorney to represent or look for representation. The only thing that we are doing here, and I want the city attorney to clarify, there's going to be some, there is some modifications to the original in order to make it more clear, and nobody is going to be left hanging. As a matter of fact, I am being sued. I am being sued. Told everybody that it is now being sued. It's not going to be out. What we want to do is stop the bleeding and find out at least give them some sort of limits on how much are we spending, how many attorneys do we get, what's the hourly cost that we're paying. You see, try to limit it and try to stop the bleeding because we have spent so much money. And trying to define once and for all, you see, what's going on with our outside consulting. And one another question that I have asked, why do we have so much outside consulting when we have a legal department?
So
can you please listen to him?
I don't take an issue with us getting reports, but I do take issue with us creating ordinances that apply retroactive or are in effect immediately and affects people negatively that are currently in the situation. If we want to look forward, again, I'm not going to support anything that would require that I pay upfront fees to represent myself, but I'm also not in favor of stopping in the middle of representation and having someone have to figure that out, not for our staff, because this is bigger than us. This is bigger than myself. This affects staff, and I cannot imagine requiring staff to have to pay for legal fees and then get reimbursed. We are not considering what that toll would be on a family who is working for the city of Miami, not to mention public servants. It has a chilling effect.
It doesn't affect staff.
It actually does, because in the language it says employees as well. In the ordinance, in the resolution, it references
the only thing that I'm trying to do is to get a handle on how we are spending our money. And Mr. Watson, could you please clarify all the concerns that Madam Chair has?
Yes, sir. You presented a substitution to the original version, and let me just sort of outline what the substituted language says. If this were to be adopted, it would have immediate effect, and it would suspend the upfront payment of legal fees for current and former elected officials in cases where outside counsel is required due to conflicts of interest, and you added, except in emergencies as defined by the city attorney. Any outstanding legal fees incurred prior to the effective date of this resolution will be paid. The next section is the city attorney is directed to review and recommend within 60 days from the date of this resolution whether to continue such engagements on a case-by-case basis. The next section says the city attorney is further directed to review future cases involving current or former elected officials that require outside counsel due to conflicts of interest and recommend whether to engage outside counsel, including estimated costs, and to proceed if there are no objections from the city commission, except in emergencies as determined by the city attorney. And then lastly, this resolution would direct the city to collaborate with the city's insurance broker to evaluate whether it's financially prudent and feasible to obtain new public officials and employment practice coverage with an alternate insurance carrier, and to present findings within 90 days from the date of the resolution.
So that is, in effect, what I said. It's going to affect current and future, and employees are included. It says so right here, wherein QBE seeks declaration, has no duty to defend and indemnify the city and its elected officials and employees. I'm not going to be in favor of that. Commissioner Gabella?
So I'd like to weigh in because if I remember correctly, I think I proposed something along these lines back in January when I was told it wasn't a good idea. You know, you even said at the time again, you know, and I abided and I said, what I'm trying to do is similar to what you're trying to do, you know, to get a handle on what's really going on, you know. But at the same time, you know, what I would urge, you know, if this body has an appetite for it, you know, to go over this, give us a little bit more time to go over this, you know, the requirements, or maybe defer it. You know, I don't know what changed from January to now that, you know, because I proposed it in January, if I remember correctly, and I was told nobody had the appetite to do it, or you did. I think you voted for me, or with me, but nobody else did. But at any rate, I think, you know, I'd like to go over, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, or what I'm saying is, for me, give me a chance to digest it.
I accept that we might defer this, but I want to know that, I want everybody to know that we must get a handle on the way that we are paying our outside counsel.
Absolutely.
You see, we have to get a handle because the way that it has been going, it has cost us millions and millions and millions of dollars. You see, and it is very dangerous now. Nobody wants even to. Our insurance company said no more. You see, no more. And my intention it is not to leave anybody out without any proper legal representation, but to get a handle on expenditures. Get a handle on expenditures. That it is my main concern. It is not what you propose to go back and look at what has been done. It is in the future. Let's get a handle on how our money is spent on outside counsel and the need for outside counsel too.
Well, I believe that is a report versus what is attempted in this resolution. I'm going to allow Mr. Vice Chair.
Madam City Attorney, we received the new resolution yesterday afternoon. My chief of staff wasn't able to get a hold of me until late in the evening when I first got it. And I believe Commissioner Gavela is correct. We do need more time for all of us to look at this carefully, digest it. And if I may suggest a deferment, if we could defer it to the last meeting in July, so that we have sufficient time to digest it. I don't want to get into it now and waste more time, but I passed, for all of you to have already, Supreme Court of Florida law from 1990 that includes additional laws from the 3rd District Court of Appeals right here, and additional Supreme Court laws that clearly state that Florida courts have long recognized that public officials are entitled to legal representation at public expense to defend themselves against litigation, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not the time to go any further. I think we should all look at that, study it, and we bring it back to the last meeting in July and deal with it.
Madam Chair?
Well, hold on a second. Commissioner Pardo would like to say something.
Yeah, I'm also in favor of the deferral. And I want to make a distinction. I do believe if you're a city employee or you're an elected official, you should be defended and the cost should be incurred because there are a lot of frivolous lawsuits, and I don't think anyone should be placed in that position. On the other hand, if there has been action outside the scope of our responsibilities, whether elected or not, then I think the taxpayer shouldn't be bearing that burden, especially if there's been a court that has made a determination. So I just think that those both of those situations we should consider as we move forward with the deferral.
Madam Chair, Mr. City Attorney, could you clarify the part of the employees? And also, I do understand, Madam Chair, that there is a statute, it's a state statute, that requires that the city or the organization, the public organization, to provide legal assistance or pay for the attorneys of any employee or elected official that while in working as according to the position, they had made a decision and they have been sued by a person, the affected party. What I want to know now, Mr. City Attorney, is I want to make the distinction between employees and and elected officials.
Yes, sir. It was your intention. Section 2 only applies to current and former elected official in cases where current and former elected officials. Madam Chair is correct that one of the whereas clauses mentions the QBE lawsuit. Since we've already resolved the QBE lawsuit, we'll go ahead and remove that whereas clause to avoid any confusion as to who's covered. But the legislation as drafted is intended to really only relate to former and current elected officials.
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion to move it to September.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to move the item to the first meeting in September or the last?
The last meeting.
The last
meeting, so we have time
yes.
to go over and reach an agreement, because that's what we have to strive for.
Okay.
Reach an agreement and try to improve the way that we've been doing business.
So I have a motion and a second on the floor to defer this item to the last meeting in September.
September 26th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, can I have just a couple of seconds for a point of information?
Yes.
This is to bring the commission up to date of a ruling yesterday in the other lawsuit that was launched against the city and approximately 10 of us or so and another 20 John Does, whoever they might be. In my particular case, the judge basically ruled by saying that we only had to answer count 1 out of the 16 counts. So it certainly appears that the other 15 counts are not going to be considered at all. And so you could understand why this is costing more money to represent all our employees. And elected officials are employees of the city too. On this particular lawsuit, this is the third suit that they have brought to the city and we have had to answer, etc., since the first 2 were thrown out by the judge. And they keep playing this game of trying to build up the legal fees on us so then they could go and send their little billies and others so they could say, look at all the money that is costing us. Well, they're causing those expenditures. And a senior judge, one of the most senior judges, has thrown out twice the lawsuit. This is the third go around. You know what they say, the third time is the charm. On other members of this city that have been sued, it's my understanding that just about all of the charges have been thrown out. The rest, the judge has invited for discovery, and of course, summary judgment will take care of them. But the reason that the expenses are so high are for the reasons that I'm stating. And oh yes, on the $63.5 million, they have to answer, reply to our motion on the appeal by July 1st. So right after that, the appellate court is going to get this case. And anybody, particularly if you're an attorney, I invite you to read the appeal, and you're not going to have any doubt after you read it that it's going to be overturned. To begin with, in all these cases that these people have filed, the three main ones in federal courts that are all the same thing, one of the most critical parts in federal law, and particularly in this district, that goes back years as the law, with DiMartino, the latest one was O'Boyle in February of 2023. Because it is so easy to accuse someone of violating someone's civil rights, the courts have held, the appellate courts have held, the federal courts have held, that those that are suing, whether a city or individuals that work for a city, in their lawsuit, they have to include probable cause. What does that mean? They have to include any probable reasons other than discriminatory actions why the city took those actions. In other words, was there probable cause why the city took those actions? Not in one of these lawsuits, not one, have they included that. Not in one. And in the $63.5 million case, the judge looked the other way and refused for attorneys to bring that before the jury. So I know that these chaps want very much for us to turn over and play dead, and they're putting every full court press and pressure that they can. But the facts are that based on established federal law, DiMartino, O'Boyle, they have to show if there was any probable cause, any possible reason why our city or any of our employees took the actions that we took. And in practically every single one of their allegations, it goes beyond probable cause that the city had. It was 100% evidence of the violations that they had made. Therefore, based on case law, it all has to be thrown out. Thank you.
Thank you. So, we are now at our second reading items. Mr. City Attorney, would you please read into the record the titles of SR1 and SR2 for our consideration?
Yes, Madam Chair. SR1, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 2, Article 10 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended City Code titled Administration, Code Enforcement, more particularly by reinstating Section 2-830 of the City Code titled Alternate Code Enforcement System, providing for an alternate code enforcement system that gives special magistrates the same authority as the Code Enforcement Board to hold hearings and impose fines, costs, liens, and other non-criminal penalties against violators of the city code, providing for the qualifications, appointment powers, compensation, and retention of special magistrates, and to amend Section 2-817B3 of the city code pertaining to irreparable or irreversible violation fines, containing a severability clause and providing for an immediate effective date. Second reading 2. An ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 37, Section 2 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended titled Offenses, Miscellaneous, Malicious Defacement, Marking, etc. of Real Property, to provide for authority of Code Compliance Department to manage the graffiti mitigation program and add other requirements for participation containing a severability clause and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for SR1 and SR2?
Motion.
I have a motion and a second.
And Madam Chair, if I could just be co-sponsor on SR2 as well.
Okay.
Madam Chair, and a slight modification to SR1 on behalf of the administration. Within the language of the ordinance, it says a cap of 5 special magistrates. They want to change that to a minimum of 5 magistrates. And the second change we'd like to make is there's a section that says the fines may be reduced as determined, recommended by city attorney's designee, city manager's designee, and CEB magistrate. City attorney's designee should not be involved in that process, so we want to eliminate that. So those 2 minor changes on SR1.
So it would be SR1 as amended. Would anyone like to speak on these items, or are we ready to move them?
If we could just hold off for a second, Chairman. How many magistrates are we anticipating hiring for this?
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Barbara Hernandez, Assistant City Manager. We're looking at a minimum right now of 5 per your request at the February 22nd Commission meeting. We are starting at 5, but we can go all the way up to whatever you all feel. That item will be coming back in front of you to approve all the special magistrates at a later date before we move forward on combining the special magistrate boards with alongside the.
How are we going about in picking the magistrates?
So we're putting that together. One of the things that you requested at the February 22nd is making sure that they have background checks, that they're not related to anybody in the city, that they have a legal background. Those kind of requirements are going to be in and put it in there.
What is the backlog that we have now to the co-director?
Good morning, Vice Chair. Last time I did the assessment, it was close to 1,000, probably in the 700 margin, somewhere around there. That includes extensions of time last evening because we have very complex cases. Half the docket could not be heard.
How long do you think it might take to bring you up to date?
4 to 6 months.
Could you bring this back for discussion after 6 months period to see where we're at?
Sure.
And how it's progressed?
That's an option. Okay. The idea was to have magistrates assist with some of the cases that are simpler, extensions of time, which allows for the deep dive into some of the cases that are hotly contested. And that was the goal, but yes, we could proceed as you wish.
What I don't want to see is partially what was going on before, that regular residents that didn't have expediters, attorneys, were getting the brunt of the fines. And those with commercial properties or bigger size properties were going through the magistrates instead of the code enforcement board.
Understood.
And they were being dealt with very, very lenient in comparison to local residents. That's why what I'm asking is in 6 months' time to bring it back for discussion and for a report of how it went in those 6 months. Hopefully you'll be up to date.
We could do that. I'm going to tell you as a policy process, one of the things I want to do is to have a day dedicated for mitigations where we pay specific attention to the mitigations with all the details as opposed to a smorgasbord that we have now, because right now it's new cases, extensions of time, mitigations all together along with life safety and repeat violations. So it's
that could make
like
sense.
to bring some
that would make sense.
control.
Yeah, so you have the same type of cases.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And mitigations, when we start that way, clearly what it would do, It sets the tone. We sometimes, often, they want to rehear the case, and no, we don't hear de novo. We hear the reasons that prevented them, and it creates a better control. So that's part of the plan.
Robert.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. As the maker of the motion, 6 months' time, would that be adequate to see a substantial, if it changed or not, one way or the other? Do you need more?
Assuming all things remain the same, we have quorum, we hear the cases, I would believe that we would be able to catch up. The concern is there's things that are unprecedented. Yesterday was a very, very challenging day.
Yeah, I'm not holding you to that timetable. All that I'm saying, Commissioner, is for him to come back, give us a report in 6 months.
No, that's fine.
Let's see how we're doing.
Yeah.
If it's working well, even if we're caught up, we might want to leave it like it is. That's all that I'm saying.
No, I agree.
Yes, sir. Be happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. There's a motion. There's a second.
Wait, I see the city attorney leaning forward,
Yeah,
which
so
means he has something to
the
say.
city clerk and I were asking Mr. Vice Chair, are you modifying the legislation to require the report in 6 months? Or is it a separate direction to have the administration?
I thought it was a separate direction, but if you want to include it, Commissioner Gabela, we can include it.
That's fine. We can include it.
Okay, it's,
So we'll modify
it's
the
only to come back and give us a report in 6 months.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
We're ready for a motion?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
With SR 1 being amended.
Yes. There is a discussion item, external auditors.
No, that was taken off.
That was taken off? Look at that.
DI 1 is still in place, and we still have FR2.
The auditor is still here to make a.
But didn't you guys deferred that?
No.
No, not the discussion item. It's a different item.
It's a different item.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Because I keep copious notes. Good afternoon. Is it still morning or is it afternoon? It's afternoon now. Good afternoon. It was deferred.
What was deferred?
No, both of them. Oh, I'm sorry. FR2 is in play. Okay. Hold on a second. We have FR2 in play. Mr. City Attorney, would you please read?
No, I think I never want to correct you, Madam Chair, but I think you
Of
mean
course, it's fine.
SR2.
SR2 and
The graffiti
FR2 are
one.
both still.
No,
we
did
both- yeah, we
SR
did.
1 and 2.
Yes, you did
I
them
just-
together?
Yes, we did SR 1 and 2.
Yeah,
now,
we did.
See, that's why I don't correct.
Okay, FR2 now needs to be read into the record, the title.
Thank you, Madam Chair. FR2, an ordinance of the Miami City Commission amending Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 2, Section 2-212 of the Code of the City of Miami, Florida, as amended, titled Administration Department, Planning, Building, and Zoning Department Reserve, to create a section titled Certificate of Reoccupancy for Single-Family Residences prior to resale, to allow for inspections by the City of Miami Code Compliance Department to determine whether any current zoning violations exist on the property and to determine if the property usage is not allowed by law, containing a severability clause and providing for a 30-day effective date.
Commissioner Reyes?
Yes, I am the proponent of this, the sponsor of this ordinance. Okay. The thing is that by experience, and I had that experience when I was part of the Code Enforcement Board, and also I had very bad experience on properties that are being sold as income-generating properties when they are on single-family homes. And what happens is that when here comes a buyer and he buys that property, and then it is found in violation later on when he comes before the Code Enforcement Board and said, I bought it like that, the typical answer is, you bought yourself a problem. You see, you bought yourself a problem. What I want to do is to try and, I met had a meeting with the Board of Realtors. I have a meeting with them, and they are willing to work. You see, this is not cast in stone. This is just his first step. So we're going to be working together and seeing how can we protect the consumers. This is a consumer protection ordinance. And any property owner or buyer is a consumer. And sometimes they are misled. And in order to avoid misleading and avoid the consumers, I have seen many couples that they have put together their savings into purchasing a house, a home, see? And then they go through the process, the title search and all of that. Title search don't tell you that there is a violation or they have made that property into 4 units when it was supposed to be 1 unit. It doesn't say that. And then they come back before the board with a tremendous fine, and the answer is, you bought yourself a problem. You see, I think that we have to work together with the Board of Realtors and see how can we provide some protection of people that are going to buy those property before the purchase is finalized. And this is the idea of this. Now, between first and second reading, we can talk, and we are going to, I'm going to be working close to, if we pass this, I'm going to be working very close to the board, with the Board of Realtors, and anybody that has any questions, anybody that has any concerns, it could be ironed out, and if we cannot, well, then we don't vote for it in the second reading. Okay?
So I do have concerns about this legislation. I believe it will have a chilling effect. The city of Miami Gardens has a similar ordinance in play.
10 cities.
And it's a disaster the way it's operating. I would request a deferral so that you could work on this and we can look at this in more detail. When someone purchases a home or purchases property, particularly if someone is purchasing a home, they have to get clear title. But you will, yes, they have to have clear title for it to move. The only way that a purchaser would not know about these liens and the violations is if they buy the property as is. And with this ordinance, I would not be able to buy a property as is and take on the responsibilities. I believe that while it is well-intentioned, it will have a chilling effect, perhaps cause even the city to be sued because you're interfering with my right to purchase real estate without an encumbrance. And if I want to buy a property as is and I enter into a contract and says I assume all rights and responsibilities of this property, that is my right. This will be taken away with this. Yes, it will.
No, doesn't preclude you. Doesn't preclude you from, hold on a second.
No, because it requires that the city has, real estate transactions are time sensitive, and it will require the city come out, do an inspection, and give an okay. I don't need the city to tell me I can purchase a property as is, and that's what your legislation will do.
When you are not misled. But because most of the time, I'm going to give you a simple example. You have a terrace that you built without permit. You see, there's no permit, and you build it beautiful in the backyard, and that does not show on the title search. You purchase that house as is. You purchase that house, and nobody comes and point to you. Listen, this is illegal, and you will have to tear it down, or you're going to be fined. Okay? That's what I'm trying to protect. And it doesn't preclude you, hold on a second, ma'am, doesn't preclude you from buying it. As a buyer, you can say, okay, I'll buy it and I'll fix it. Fantastic. we are not interfering with the seller. What we are doing is pointing out to the buyer, this is going on. You are buying yourself a problem, and I want you to be aware that you could have a problem in the future.
I understand.
Because we cannot preclude a sale.
I understand what you're saying. That would be financially burdensome on the city, because now we're going to have to find staff to do these inspections unnecessarily, because the buyer and the seller, buyers have to get an inspection, and an inspector would be able to give the same information, but not at the city's expense. Yes, I've spoken to
not
the
if you
realtors.
charge a fee for inspection, no.
The fees, but then you're adding an additional cost, because the bank requires an inspection, and then the city's going to require an inspection. So now you have double inspections, but you have to wait for the city to get around to your inspection. We can't even pick up garbage properly. How are we going to make sure that every person, and when people start losing their escrow because they haven't closed in time, now we're going to have people coming at us because we're holding up a real estate transaction, which are, I'm just saying that I believe this legislation, well-intentioned, has a chilling effect that hasn't been thought out.
It is 10 cities in the county, they have it. 10 cities do have it. And Hialeah has it. And we have to look for it. What we're doing is we are just pointing out the violations that they are in the house. We can limit the violations that we're looking for, like an addition that has been made without permit, that sooner or later is going to be caught and it's going to cost them. You see, we are not precluding that. We are just pointing out, listen, this is this type of violation. And what we can do between now and the second reading is to limit the violations that we are looking for and how it's going to be. Let me give you an anecdote. Let me give you an example. You see, in Flagami, there was a house that it was divided in nine units. It was divided, big house, and it was advertised as an income-generating property. At the time before the property value increased that much in Flagami, they were asking $1.4 million for the property because it was an income-generating property. We caught it because of the advertisement. And this is a true story. This is the true story. Where the code enforcement went, everybody went over there, and the answer from the realtor, because there are bad apples and there are good apples in every single profession, the answer was, wait until we close, and then you do what you have to do. You see. Can you imagine if you have purchased that? Can you imagine if you have purchased that and nobody took a look at it? Because the the search, the title search, it looks for additional, if they have liens and all of that, but not for violations. Can you imagine if you have purchased that? I think it's very cool and
I understand.
Say,
if you build an addition illegally, the property description will not match what the property appraiser has. So there are checks and balances. I'm going to let my other colleagues speak. Commissioner Gabello.
Yeah, look, this is more, we'd be creating more red tape. We're opening up a can of worms. Well, this is going to be a problem. I say let the market take care of the market. Granted that there are, while well-intentioned, and granted that what Manuel's talking about does exist, okay, but this is going to be more problems. I don't think the...
Well, we're here to solve problems.
Commissioner Reyes, let him speak, and I think, Vice Chair, would you like to speak after him?
I might.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to let Commissioner
I'm just going to answer this.
Wait, hold on. Let Commissioner Gabella speak, and then let us get to... and Commissioner Pardo wants to speak, and let us all have our say.
So look, if I wanted to buy a piece of property, and I don't need financing, I can go and buy that piece of property without an inspection if I wanted to, okay? And if you're going to get financing, then you need an inspection. And I think, we're not stupid here. Nobody's stupid out there. that you go to a house and, you know, you're going to inspect it. You know, you're going to know if there's, you know, if there's an efficiency, if it looks like efficiency, it doesn't look like an efficiency that's properly done or not. I don't think we need to be more government intrusion into people's lives, like what you said, Madam Chairwoman, that, you know, now I'm going to buy a piece of property, you know, and now I got to get the city to sign off on it. You know what I mean? No, I don't think this is needed. This will create a can of worms, lawsuits left and right. I think it'll have more problems than what it solves. You know, and the bottom, it's going to generate more problems for us because we got to have more people out there, you know, on this thing. And so I'm totally against this, with all due respect to the commission.
Commissioner Pardo?
I think we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit here because we're going into a lot of detail. But Commissioner Reyes, you said you would be meeting with the Board of Realtors.
Yes.
I would be very interested. I do think there is a consumer protection element here.
That's what it is.
And I would be just interested to hear what the Board of Realtors, how they weigh in, because obviously they want smooth transactions. They don't want to see things. So I really would like to see what comes back.
Madam Chair, if I may add.
Let's let Vice Chair speak as well.
No, he doesn't need to speak. I know. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
How do you know what I'm going to say?
Because I know you.
Well, I think you have a great idea here. See? You're surprised?
No, I'm not.
Well, then you should be, because on this one, I don't think you have such a great idea. With all due respect. Let me see where I can begin, because there's so much here. One, let's look at the constitutional protection that every resident have from government's intrusion into their home. What rights do residents have under the Constitution? They have a lot of rights. We're creating a law to force, whether they like it or not, residents of this city to have to open their doors to government to go into their own house without a warrant. You're going to get lawsuits there. Secondly, as I understand it, this ordinance is only looking at single-family residents. Well, how about duplexes? You can't divide duplex the same way? Of course. Triplex, townhomes, condominiums even, and of course, commercial and business property in the city. So, are we going to be discriminating to the single-family homeowner? Some would think so. There's another lawsuit. And then, I think the first people that would admit that we don't have a sufficiently trained force in code enforcement would be code enforcement. But I could tell you that we don't for this kind of job. We sent a code enforcement officer to go through a home, and they miss this, and that, and then down the road, if the city goes at that homeowner, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, here's my certificate, everything was fine, and they're going to turn around and sue the city. So, for a commission that wants to avoid all these expenses in attorney's fees, we're creating a whole bunch of potentials for lawsuits here that are going to come. The argument, and Commissioner Gavela alluded to that, and he's correct. If you walk into a home that you know is zoned single family, and you see that it's divided into rooms all over the place, or a couple with doors going out the other way, you know, people could see it right through. Unless they're biting from Dubai unseen. But in today's world, you know, you could look at through cameras, everything. Whoever's buying a property is going to know if they have subdivided it in a residential area, and if they did, it's illegal. The real estate profession, they have multiple listing. In the multiple listing contracts, people that are selling their homes under oath have to sign everything about the property. Buyers have the opportunity to have the home inspected, and in those inspections could include some of the areas that you brought up that they could look into. Granted, many of us are at fault because we wanted to save a few dollars in closing, and we don't do that, and then we find out that something was done without permits, and then we bought it. But that was our choice in the beginning if we wanted to do the inspections or not. You know, that's called free market. I just find it difficult, beyond everything that I've expressed here and a ton of other things that, you know, I'm not going to take up more time, to approve an ordinance that is going to force residents against their constitutional rights to have to open the door for government to go into their homes without a warrant. And the last time this came up, I think it was Commissioner Gord that tried to look at that, and he quickly decided from what he saw that it was not the right thing to do. So I can't go along with this here. I think it's going to create so many more problems than we have, and it's going to hurt the city of Miami. Let me finish, Commissioner, please. It is going to hurt the city of Miami in its tax base, where many people that come to buy in the city, that's more expensive already than just about anywhere else, because we're closer to the job markets where you don't have to drive for an hour in the morning, an hour or more at night. So for property that's more expensive already, if we're going to be creating all these additional hurdles where people can't close, that it becomes a nightmare to try to sell a piece of property, I think it's going to hurt our tax base tremendously. And, you know, that's what I feel. And I respect,
Okay, you finished?
I respect your opinion. Yes.
Commissioner Reyes? Okay.
Let me-
2 minutes, because we've
2
talked
minutes.
about this.
You should give him 2 minutes too.
No, I let you speak. We all spoke on this, and now we're wrapping it up.
I'm going to be, you know, I'm very, very short all the time, and I get to the point. You see, what I try to do here is to base on experience. I remember a neighbor of mine that long time ago, they built all kind of different, additions. Once he sold the house, the people that bought the house, they lost half of their value because they have to demolish everything that was built there. That's what I'm trying to avoid. And constitutional right, well, I have a list of 11 cities that they are doing and requiring that, so they are violating everybody's constitution. You see, they are violating, and that's something that buyers here have to say on it. And I want again, I want to reiterate that this does not preclude the sale from taking place. That what this does inform the buyer that it is a problem that they have to take care of it, and if they agree that to buy it like that, that's a problem. But at least point it out, and that's called consumer protection.
I understand. I believe this body is prepared to vote on this item unless you would like to reconsider and defer it and work on it a little bit, because I'm not prepared to support
let's defer it. I move to defer it, and let me work with the Board of Review, because they, as a matter of fact, they were open to this.
I'll second it.
Right. So I have a motion
Second.
and a second
For the last meeting in September.
for the last meeting in September. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The item is deferred to the last meeting in December. That brings us.
Just for clarification, that's September.
I'm sorry, September.
Didn't I say December?
You said December. September. Looking at the time, we have a CRA meeting. It won't be long. Would you like to break for the CRA meeting, or do you want to continue and try to go through everything? We have the PZ items and the.
No, I need
Okay,
to.
so we'll break.
Yeah, take a break.
Okay, because I want to get to the
Which
the
CRAs
CRA.
do we
It's
have?
the Southeast Overtown Park West CRA meeting. It won't take long. It's only a few items on there, and then we'll break for lunch and come back, have our one discussion item and the PZ items, which we should be able to wrap up fairly quickly. So yeah. So at this time, we are going to recess the City of Miami Commission meeting for June 27, 2024, and we will return approximately 2 hours after the CRA meeting concludes, which we should conclude the CRA meeting before 1 o'clock, I believe. Thank you all. Speaking of which, my boyfriend